Hey film fans! Welcome to Cine Pro, your ultimate hub for all movie recaps, from heartwarming classics to the latest blockbusters. Our movie starts with Mary performing an autopsy on a cadaver as she's a medical student specializing in surgery. The next day, Mary is at university, and during a lecture, her phone rings. Dr. Grant, who's giving the lecture, gets very annoyed by the sound and scolds Mary. After the lecture ends, he explains that his reaction was for her benefit. A surgeon must be attentive to every detail and cannot afford any distractions. Mary understands his point, apologizes, and promises to focus harder from now on. Afterward, Mary returns home and finds her landline disconnected because she hasn't paid the bill. Her landlord also calls, demanding 3 months of overdue rent. The problem is, Mary doesn't have enough money to cover all these expenses. She goes online to look for a job and finds an ad for work at a nightclub. She sends them a message asking when she can meet them. The next day, Mary meets Billy, the owner of the nightclub, and hands him her CV. He learns from it that she's a medical student specializing in surgery. During the interview, Lance interrupts, pulling Billy aside for a private conversation. Billy then returns to Mary and says he needs her services in exchange for $5,000. Desperate and hungry, Mary accepts the tempting offer without even knowing what the job entails. Billy takes her to the basement, where Mary finds a man with his eyes gouged out and his body completely dissected. Billy asks her to treat him. Despite being horrified, Mary reluctantly complies. Afterward, she goes home, terrified by what happened, and locks herself inside. Later, she gets a call from someone named Beatrice, who asks, "Are you Dr. Mary?" Mary denies being Mary because she doesn't know who Beatrice is and hangs up. Then someone else calls, saying they have a package for her. Mary opens the door, changes her clothes, and finds Beatrice has entered her home uninvited. Beatrice introduces herself as the same person who called earlier and says she works for Billy at the nightclub. She saw the person Mary operated on and was impressed with her work. Beatrice found Mary's address from her CV and explains she urgently needs her help. Beatrice wants Mary to perform a plastic surgery procedure on a friend that no hospital would accept, considering it mutilation rather than cosmetic. However, her friend is determined to have the procedure done. Beatrice offers Mary $10,000 for the operation and $2,000 up front if she agrees immediately. Desperate for money, Mary accepts and asks where the operation will take place. Beatrice says it will be at a clinic owned by a doctor who allows such procedures. At the clinic, Mary meets Ruby, the patient, who says she's a model and wants her body to resemble a mannequin. She desires a feminine figure but without any features that could evoke desire. Ruby asks Mary to remove all her erogenous zones entirely. Mary sedates her and begins the procedure. After completing the operation, Mary tells Beatrice not to mention her name to anyone else, as she won't perform such surgeries again. Beatrice promises to keep her secret, and Mary thanks her before leaving. The next day, Mary is practicing in the hospital. During her break, she steps outside and is surprised to find Beatrice waiting for her. Beatrice tells her Ruby's operation was successful and that Ruby shared her post-surgery photos on her website, where many followers are amazed by Mary's work. Beatrice also says Ruby sent her a gift as a token of appreciation. Mary accepts the gift, feeling pleased. Later, Dr. Walsh invites Mary to a party at Dr. Grant's house, saying some of the country's top surgeons will be there. Excited at the opportunity to network with such prestigious doctors, Mary dresses elegantly and attends the party. Dr. Walsh welcomes her, offers her a drink, and chats with her briefly before leaving. Then Dr. Grant approaches, talks to her about her studies, and encourages her to pursue a bright future. At this point, Mary starts to feel dizzy and gradually loses consciousness, as Walsh had spiked her drink. Grant takes her to his bedroom, photographs her on the bed, and assaults her. The next day, Mary wakes up and realizes what happened. She quietly leaves and returns home, furious and distressed. She throws all her medical books on the floor, hating the college and the field of medicine because of the criminals she encountered. Mary then goes to Billy, asking for his help in exchange for $5,000. She wants him to bring Grant to her, tied up. Billy agrees, and we see Grant in Mary's house, bound and restrained. Mary sits beside him and says she left medical school, but knowledge is in the mind, not in the books, and she's learned a lot from him. Strong, she tells him that she will apply everything she has learned on him and explain it. She will cut his body into pieces, piece by piece. After that, she starts wounding him, but he disappears afterward. Later, we see that Mary's work in shady operations begins to grow more and more. Many people get to know her through shady websites on the internet, and she does whatever they ask of her. Cosmetic surgeries, disfigurements, and organ transplants. Then, a police investigator named Derulo comes to Mary. He tells her that Dr. Walsh sent him because Dr. Grand has disappeared, and he's investigating everyone who had a connection with him. Mary denies knowing them personally and says that, to her, he was just a doctor teaching her. Derulo leaves his card with her and tells her to contact him immediately if she learns anything about Grand. The meeting ends there. Afterward, Mary goes to Billy, upset, and tells him that a police investigator came to question her and that Walsh was the one who sent him. She explains that she denied knowing Grand to avoid suspicion, but realizes that Walsh involved her in the situation and led the police to her. Billy asks if she wants him to kill Walsh to get rid of him, but she refuses, as doing so would make the police suspect her even more. After finishing the conversation, she says she came to meet Beatrice because they have work. Indeed, she goes to meet Beatrice at Ruby's apartment to show her something. There, Mary sees a picture of Ruby with a man and asks who he is. Ruby tells her that he is her husband. Mary is shocked to learn that Ruby is married, especially considering the genital mutilation surgery she had. She couldn't understand why Ruby did that. Later, Mary receives a letter from two sisters from another country asking about her location and how to contact her for surgeries. Beatrice tells her that they will arrive in a week and advises her to deal with them cautiously. She suggests meeting them at Billy's nightclub because they are somewhat troublesome. Indeed, the sisters arrive a week later and meet Mary at the nightclub. They look very peculiar and start their conversation by expressing great trust in her, based on people's comments about her work. She has become famous online under the name Bloody Mary. They introduce themselves as twin sisters who are deeply attached to each other. They explain their fear of one dying before the other and ask Mary to transfer parts of one sister's body to the other, swapping arms, legs, or even parts of the brain so that each would have parts of the other's body, ensuring they remain connected even after death. They tell Mary that if the surgery is successful, they will pay her an enormous amount of money, more than she could ever dream of. Mary agrees without hesitation because, to her, money is more important than anything. After the meeting, Mary goes to thank Billy for allowing her to meet them at the nightclub. She tells him she agreed to do the surgery but can't handle it alone because it's a major operation. She asks Billy to find a doctor to help her. He says he knows a doctor and will contact him about it. Next, we see Mary and the doctor preparing the sisters for the surgery. Mary is very excited because this is the most challenging operation she has ever undertaken. Her confidence grows, and her skills improve significantly. After completing the surgery, Mary goes to an abandoned warehouse. There, we find that Grand is still alive. Mary has him suspended by chains from the skin of his back, with parts of his arms and legs cut off, his mouth sewn shut, and his body extremely weak. Honestly, he deserves it. Mary brings a camera and starts filming him, telling him she is creating a personal album of him to look at whenever she's upset, just to calm her nerves. At that moment, a security guard suddenly appears and hits Mary on the head, saying he will call the police. However, Mary gets up behind him and strikes him on the head with a stick until she kills him. After finishing him off, she confronts Grand. Later, we see Billy beating someone who has a bag over their head, making it impossible to identify them. Meanwhile, Mary checks on the sisters and finds that the surgery was successful. They leave her the large sum of money they promised. Mary takes the money, packs her bags, and moves to a bigger, more beautiful house. She also establishes a dedicated space for her operations. We see her filming all the cases she has worked on, whether disfigurements or cosmetic surgeries, to promote her work and attract more clients. Mary is then surprised by a second visit from Detective Derulo. This time, he isn't just investigating Grand's disappearance. He tells her that Dr. Walsh has also gone missing. Their investigations reveal that both were involved in hosting suspicious parties at Grand's house, where they would lure girls, drug them, and assault them while filming. Derulo asks Mary if she ever attended one of these parties, but she denies it. He tells her it's impossible for her to escape suspicion, saying she must have attended at least one party. She asks if he has seen any video evidence involving her, and he says not yet. He tells her that if she is involved in their disappearance, she shouldn't worry because, in reality, she is the victim. Mary avoids the topic and assures him she knows nothing about it, promising to contact him if she learns anything. Afterward, Mary goes to Billy's nightclub to tell him what happened because he has become the closest person to her. When she enters, she finds him in a compromising situation with one of the girls working for him. Mary becomes very upset and leaves to wait outside. When he comes out, she speaks to him with disgust, clearly jealous because she has feelings for him. He too is upset that she saw him in that situation because he loves her. Mary asks him if he is behind Dr. Walsh's disappearance. He admits that he did it to avenge her against those who hurt her. Mary asks if he has seen her video, and he denies it. While they are talking, Mary notices the girl who was with Billy earlier heading to the bathroom. Mary follows her, takes out all her surgical tools, scalpels, scissors, and more, to intimidate the girl. She then attacks her and is about to kill her but stops, settling for scaring her. Mary warns her never to approach Billy again before leaving. Her condition wasn't great due to the drastic transformation in her personality. She had become fierce, bloodthirsty, and killing had become very easy for her. So, Billy, to help her disconnect from all this mess, suggested they take a break from everything and travel. Mary said she'd think about it. Later, Mary returned home, and then she received a call from Beatrice, who was talking to her while drenched in blood and dying. She told her that Ruby's husband, after seeing the transformation and scars on her body, attacked her to get Mary's address. She confessed that during the assault, she gave him Mary's address and warned her to leave immediately because he intended to kill her. Before Bea could finish her words, it was revealed that he was already in Mary's house and stabbed her in the stomach with a knife. Mary tried to fight him off for a while and managed to stab him as well, and both of them collapsed to the floor, bleeding heavily. Mary managed to reach her equipment and tried to save herself and stop the bleeding, but unfortunately, she couldn't, and she died. Later, the police arrived at her house and found Grant's photo album, where he appeared disfigured and mutilated. Finally, Dorlo discovered that she was behind the disappearance crime. This is where the events of the dramatic movie come to an end. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss anything. See you in the next video. Hey film fans, welcome to CinePro, your ultimate hub for all movie recaps. From heartwarming classics to the latest blockbusters, our movie today begins at a nuclear plant in California. One of the employees is sitting and feeding his dog when, suddenly, he learns of a leak that has occurred in the facility. He goes to check out the issue with his colleagues, and security is forced to evacuate the area as quickly as possible. They make one last attempt to fix the leak in hopes of controlling the situation, demonstrating that they are a highly skilled and well-trained team. As soon as the dog sees many people around, it becomes very frightened and runs away to hide. The employee tries to search for the dog to take it with him, but unfortunately, he runs out of time, and security forces him to leave immediately. He feels deeply saddened that he cannot save his dog, which is left alone in the facility as it is sealed off. A year later, we meet a young man named Josh, who is riding in a car with his friends, driving around town together. His sister's dog sees him and starts running after the car, insisting on joining them. Josh apologizes to his friends, saying he needs to get out to return the dog home, but they refuse to let him leave and decide to take the dog along. They figure the dog won't cause any trouble. Meanwhile, at home, Ray is trying to help his daughter fall asleep. Afterward, he asks his wife about their son, Josh. From their conversation, we learn that the family has recently moved to this new place, and Josh has struggled to make friends or adapt to his new school. Jennifer suggests that Ray give Josh some space to connect with his peers, make friends, and grow to like the area more. She sees this outing as a great opportunity to improve his mood. Josh and his friends arrive at the same nuclear power plant. Josh is shocked when he finds out that one of his friends, Dwayne, has a weapon. Dwayne approaches the facility and aims at a dog standing inside. Josh runs to stop him, trying to prevent him from doing so. When he realizes they are determined and won't listen to him, Josh decides to leave and takes his dog with him. He walks along a very dark path using his flashlight. Suddenly, the dog starts barking loudly and runs off into the distance. At the same time, Dwayne and his friends begin searching for the dog they intended to shoot, splitting up to cover more ground. After a while, Dwayne hears a terrifying sound nearby and carefully inspects the area. Eventually, he finds a prey animal under the grasp of a wild, rabid dog. He screams in horror at the sight and tries to escape but trips and falls. He struggles to get up and runs away, but the dog stays in place, staring at him menacingly. Moments later, the dog catches up to him in seconds, as it is much faster. When Dwayne turns around and sees it, he falls off a high cliff out of sheer fright. His friends search for him but cannot find him, assuming he left. They decide to leave as well since it's very late. Meanwhile, the wild dog picks up the scent of Josh's dog and begins following its trail. Josh and his dog eventually make it home, but his father scolds him for being so late. Josh is forced to explain everything that happened, expressing his frustration with his schoolmates, whom he describes as savage and insane. He tells his parents that they wanted to kill the dog for no reason, just for fun. Jennifer is shocked to learn they had a weapon and thanks Josh for being honest and not hiding anything from them. Josh says goodnight and heads to his room to rest. Jennifer and Ray are left alone, and after a while, they hear their dog barking strangely. However, they ignore it completely, unaware that the rabid dog is standing right outside their door. Their dog continues barking, trying to warn them of the danger. The wild dog manages to jump over the door and enters the house with ease. The next morning, the police find Dwayne's body in the forest and begin investigating his case to identify the killer. Jennifer and Ray are surprised to find that their dog has disappeared without a trace. Ray puts up flyers with the dog's picture, hoping someone will find and return it. When Josh hears about Dwayne's death, he feels very sad and guilty for leaving them behind. His mother tries to comfort him, assuring him that he is not to blame for what happened and that it was simply Dwayne's fate. Months pass, and their dog remains missing. Unfortunately, it has been living with the wild dog at the nuclear plant all this time. One day, the wild dog goes out in search of food and brings it back. A group of scientists arrives at the plant to inspect the reactor and address the issues there. Josh's dog runs away at the sight of them, terrified, and leaves the area with bloodstains on its body. When the wild dog returns and smells the blood trail, it realizes that the dog has left and begins to follow its scent. Josh and his sister are playing with a ball in front of their house when they hear their dog barking. Following the sound, they are shocked to find that their dog has just given birth to puppies. Sadly, the dog dies immediately after giving birth. The family mourns their loss, deciding to bury the dog and take care of her puppies. Years pass, and the puppies grow up. The wild dog visits them daily, watching from outside the door without anyone noticing. One day, a new woman moves into the neighborhood. She sees Josh cleaning their garden and approaches him, asking if he could clean her garden as well in exchange for a good amount of money. Josh is excited about the idea and agrees, making arrangements with her. Later, the wild dog appears, barking loudly outside Josh's house. Josh's dog becomes agitated upon hearing the barking and tries to get out. When Ray enters through the door, the dog attacks him viciously. His children save him at the last moment, but the dog exhibits unusual aggressive behavior for the first time. After calming down, it returns to its normal state, prompting the family to take it to the vet for an examination. The wild dog becomes very worried about its offspring, watching every move the family makes from outside the house. The vet conducts some tests to ensure the dogs are healthy and advises the family to closely monitor their behavior in the coming period. Josh recalls the new neighbor he met earlier, who mentioned that she specializes in animal behavior studies and works as a university professor. He thinks she might be able to help them with this issue. The family decides to leave the dogs with the professor since the tests will take a long time to complete, and they cannot wait that long. The wild dog realizes its offspring are locked up in that place and feels deeply upset for them, and he searches for a way to enter the clinic, and he actually manages to do so. He takes the first opportunity and enters the room where they are. He sees their doctor sitting and taking blood samples from them. The doctor senses that the dog is very agitated and moving a lot, so he tries to restrain him to examine him calmly. At that moment, the monster appears and attacks the doctor to save his son, thinking the doctor wants to harm him. The doctor screams loudly in pain and calls for help, but unfortunately, no one hears him, and he dies in the end. The monster takes his son and returns to the station to hide him. The next day, Jennifer goes to pick up the dog and is shocked when she learns what happened to the doctor. The officer asks her to speak with the forensic doctor, who questions her about all the details related to their dog. He tells her he strongly suspects that it was the dog who did this to the doctor, especially since it's the only dog that's missing and managed to escape the clinic and its cage, which is very unusual. He advises her not to take the other dog home, as it might be very dangerous for them. Jennifer feels she can't abandon him and thinks the doctor is just making things up. Meanwhile, Josh goes to the new neighbor and is delighted to find her house filled with different kinds of animals. The veterinarian explains to him that she brings the samples she studies home because she fears someone might harm them at the university, and also because she likes to keep her belongings safe. Josh tells her everything that happened with their dogs and asks for her help. Janice is surprised by what he says and gets excited to find out the reason behind the attack. She decides to go to the morgue herself. When she sees the body, she suspects that the bite on the doctor's neck belongs to a wild animal. She discusses many details with the doctor standing with her. Afterward, she leaves the morgue with Josh and tries to get more information from him. He tells her that their dog had attacked his father a few days ago, trying to get to a strange-looking dog barking outside the door. He says he sometimes hears the same barking sound coming from the forest near the nuclear station. When Janice returns home, She analyzes the saliva samples found on the body and discovers that it belongs to a mutated and completely unnatural animal. She suspects that this animal might have been exposed to radiation and mutated into a monster. The next day, Ray takes his daughter out to walk the other dog, but suddenly it runs away, following a familiar scent. The little girl chases after it, trying to catch up, but after a while, she loses track of it completely. She is shocked when she sees the monster in front of her, not knowing how to react due to its terrifying appearance. Her dog tries to defend her and prevents the monster from harming her. Ray arrives with a stick and decides to fend off the monster to protect his daughter. He uses the alarm device he has, which scares the monster with its sound, causing it to flee. When they return home, the little girl tells Josh everything that happened. She describes a terrifying-looking dog in the forest that tried to attack her. Josh is shocked by her words. After some time, her mother decides to take her out for a while. Josh uses this opportunity to go to Janice and asks for her help, telling her about the dog in the forest. Janice agrees and prepares a weapon loaded with tranquilizers to control and capture the monster easily. They take the dog with them and head to the forest together, following the dog as it knows the way well. Josh is stunned when he sees their other dog coming toward them, looking very different and behaving aggressively. Janice tries to control it and pulls out her weapon to shoot it, but she doesn't manage in time, and the dog attacks Josh, trying to bite him. Janice keeps hitting it to pull it away from Josh, but she falls to the ground. The dog tries to retaliate against her, so Josh is forced to take the weapon and prepares to shoot it. He hesitates at first, but eventually calms himself and saves her life. He feels very upset when he sees his dog lying on the ground unconscious, starting to regret what he did. Janice takes the injured dog back to the car as it needs to go to the hospital. Meanwhile, the monster finds its son's body in the forest and grieves deeply, lying beside it in the hope it will come back to life. Josh arrives at the hospital, followed shortly by his father, who is furious with him for what he did, and argues with Janice for endangering his son's life. Josh defends her, saying she didn't know anything and was just taking a walk with him. He explains that their dog attacked both of them and bit them. Janice believes that the feral dog they saw must be living in the nuclear station, and that all of this is likely due to radiation. She explains her suspicions to Ray, saying the monster must have come to take the dog from the clinic and killed the doctor as well. She warns that the monster will likely attack others and that everyone's lives are in danger. She decides to return to the forest alone with her weapon. When she reaches the spot where the dog's body was, she finds it completely gone. She is shocked to find it buried under leaves. When Jennifer returns home, she receives a call from the hospital and learns everything that happened with Josh in detail. Ray asks her to stay home with their daughter, play music, and try to draw, not sensing the monster at all. The monster manages to reach the roof and enters her and Ray's room easily through the window, destroying everything in its path as it smells its offspring everywhere. It then reaches the little girl's room and sees her sleeping peacefully. Strangely, it doesn't attack her, remembering how she used to play with and care for its children. After a while, Jennifer hears noises and goes downstairs, thinking her husband has returned. At the same time, Josh and Ray prepare to return home. Jennifer senses someone is with her and is shocked when she sees the monster. She grabs a metal rod, trying to protect her daughter. Josh and Ray arrive home, and their dog runs inside, following the scent of its parent. Ray hears his daughter screaming and rushes to her room. The monster gets scared and quickly escapes, breaking the window glass and jumping out. The whole family is terrified by what happened and decides to go to Janice's house. When they tell her everything, she suspects that their dogs might be the monster's offspring. She believes the monster is attacking them to take its children and live with them, forming a large family and lineage. Janice decides to study the matter further, and they find a solution to this disaster. Josh pleads with his dad and mom to allow him to help them in this mission so they can find a solution together. They return home the next morning when they feel somewhat safe. The monster reappears and calls his son in a specific way to lure him in. As soon as the son approaches, the monster traps him and locks him in the room outside, knowing he won't allow him to harm anyone in the family. The little girl hears the dog barking, so she goes out to check on him. There, she finds the monster standing in front of her and tries to understand what he wants from them. The monster forcibly grabs her and tries to take her to a place. Her parents realize she's missing, get extremely worried, and go out to search for her. They take their dog along the way and find it locked up. Unfortunately, they don't find their daughter at all and sense that she's in danger. Both of them rush to Janice and ask for her help. Janice explains that the monster is very clever, and that it seems when he realized his son had died and the other son didn't want to live with him, he changed his plan. She suggests that he might have taken their daughter to trap them in a specific way, and that he likely took her to the nuclear power plant. They all gather and devise a plan to rescue the girl. Josh and Ray reach the forest with the dog, as it can quickly track the father's scent. After a long time, the little girl becomes very tired and insists on resting. The monster allows her to sleep. Jennifer arrives at the plant, breaks the door, drives her car inside, and starts calling for her daughter. After a while, the dog leads them to the same path the little girl took, showing them her footprints. Jennifer and Janice enter the plant, and Janice confirms that the monster lives in this place. They grab weapons and prepare in case the monster attacks them at any moment. Each of them goes in a different direction to search for the girl. Janice encounters the monster on her path and quickly shoots him with a tranquilizer to control him. Unfortunately, the monster drops the dart and runs, attempting to attack her. Janice accidentally drops her weapon and tries to escape in any way possible. She decides to hide in gas pipes. The monster finds her location, bites her leg viciously, and drags her out. But Janice resists and escapes again, hiding in a narrow spot where the monster can't follow her. Jennifer hears a sound approaching her and prepares to shoot, but calms down when she realizes it's her dog. She rejoices that the dog is still okay, but it runs away from her. She decides to follow it, believing it will lead her to her daughter's location. Janice treats her wounds and goes to help Jennifer. Before the dog reaches the girl, it encounters the father, and they both get into a fight. The girl hears her mother calling her, wakes up quickly, and tries to follow the voice to reach her. Unfortunately, the monster defeats his son in the end because he is much weaker. In the end, the monster prepares to eliminate the humans who took his children from him. He grabs a large rope and pulls massive pipes, trying to drop them on Ray and Josh to get rid of them. His son intervenes at the right moment, protecting him, and all the pipes fall on the monster instead of his son. The monster loses consciousness due to the impact, and Josh tries to help his father, pleading with him to wake up quickly. Jennifer finally reaches her daughter, hugs her, reassures her, and takes her to safety with Janice. However, the monster finds their location. Janice tries to shoot him, and the little girl pleads with them to leave him alone, saying she can calm him down and ask him not to harm anyone. But Janice insists that he's dangerous and no one can stop him, continuing to fire multiple shots to scare him off. They meet Josh and the father on their way and help Ray to stand. They all prepare to escape. When the monster tries to follow them, Janice shoots at him, but he manages to dodge the bullets easily. When he finds the little girl in danger, he runs to save her. Unfortunately, he falls instead of her and gets severely injured. The little girl sits beside him, crying, and thanks him for saving her life. The dog approaches and sits next to his father, appearing to bid him farewell and apologize for not being with him. The next day, they bury the monster and their dog together. Afterward, they live in peace with their loyal dog. And that concludes the events of our movie today. Stay tuned for more videos and summaries.
Welcome to Cinema Bites, your go-to for movie recaps in a flash. Big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes. 100 years ago, giant monsters resembling humans called Titans appeared. The Titans began destroying the entire world and eating ordinary humans. The surviving humans managed to build a large wall to protect themselves from Titan attacks, and they were able to live in peace again. Humans continued to live with the hope that the walls would remain forever. After 100 years, people began to forget about the Titans, and the topic of Titans became a legend and something written in history books. It was told to scare children, and people started to forget about the Titans, and it became a myth and a tale in history books told to frighten children. Ordinary people living behind the walls were not allowed to cross them because the government prohibited anyone from crossing. Since then, people lived behind the walls and never left. The world behind the walls was divided into 3 areas. The third area was for farmers who lived in agricultural lands, planting and harvesting. The second area was designated for factories. The first area, the farthest from the walls, was of course for the aristocracy. It was strictly forbidden for anyone to move from one area to another. One day, in the world inside the walls, we meet a young man named Aaron. Aaron meets his friends Armin and Mikasa, who lived in the third area. Aaron and Mikasa loved each other very much. The place where they were was an area of rockets and cannons. Aaron looked at the walls, longing to one day cross them to see what was beyond. Aaron kicks a nearby rocket, revealing a map drawn on it. They see the sea on the map and are amazed. Mikasa tries to imagine what the sea looks like in reality and says, It must be a beautiful place. Afterward, Eren decides to cross the walls. He convinces his friends, and they sneak past the wall guards. They reach the wall and are shocked by its size up close. Eren wanted to climb the wall and cross to the other side, but Mikasa and Armin tried to stop him, warning him about the Titans and how they might eat them. But Eren didn't believe in the existence of Titans, as no one had seen them for 100 years. Suddenly, soldiers arrive and try to take them away, but Eren resists and fights them, not caring about the consequences. One soldier was about to shoot Eren, but Commander Zelda arrives in time. Zelda, a friend of Eren's father and the leader of the soldiers, intervenes and stops the fight. He tells the soldiers he will handle the situation with the kids. After the soldiers leave, Zelda mocks Eren's behavior, but sympathizes with his desire to be free and cross the wall. He tells them they shouldn't risk crossing the wall alone, as the army had already decided to cross the wall and explore what lies beyond. Suddenly, explosions are heard. The ground shakes as if an earthquake is happening, and the wall begins to collapse. Someone on the other side was trying to break the wall, and a colossal titan taller than the wall itself appears, with smoke surrounding its body. The army soldiers look at the giant monster in fear as it screams loudly and kicks the wall multiple times until it breaks. The giant then disappears as if it had completed its mission and left. Eren and his friends see the Titans for the first time, their terrifying faces and enormous size. The Titans enter their city through the hole in the wall and move toward the people. The army does its best to confront the Titans and defend themselves, firing cannons at them. However, these attacks only slow the Titans down, as they possessed regenerative abilities to heal their damaged cells. The Titans move toward the soldiers, who become terrified and run away if they can. The Titans grab the soldiers and eat them alive. Eren and his friends try to escape and return home. The entire city is filled with fear and chaos as people panic and flee. The Titans follow the people, destroying all the buildings and eating anyone in their path, stepping on humans as if they were insects. The Titans devour humans effortlessly. Eren takes Mikasa to a large house where the city's residents seek refuge, but due to the crowd, Eren gets separated from Mikasa. Mikasa sees a child on the ground, goes to save him, and gets pushed by the crowd. Eren gets shoved inside the house and tries to reach Mikasa but fails. The people lock the house doors in fear, refusing to open them for anyone. Eren looks out the window and sees one of the Titans with terrifying teeth approaching Mikasa. Mikasa becomes paralyzed with fear upon seeing the monster but accepts her fate and lowers her head. Suddenly, a massive explosion occurs, throwing everyone to the ground. Eren looks out the window and sees that Mikasa and the Titans have disappeared. He leaves the place as the people close the door behind him. Eren looks at the city in shock, seeing it completely destroyed. When he turns around, he sees the Titans destroying the house where the city's residents had hidden and eating everyone inside. Blood flows from under the door. Eren leaves the place and heads to the second area, where the factories are, in a state of shock and despair over what happened. 2 years after the disaster, we go to the second area and see that the people there have managed to survive thanks to their strong wall. The army was planning to reclaim the third area, which had been attacked by the Titans. We learn that the survivors had fled to the second area, abandoning their farms in the third area, which were destroyed. The destruction of the farms caused a severe shortage of food supplies, leading to increased death rates and crime. The army needed to retake the third area, repair the wall, and confront the Titans to save themselves and the people from starvation. General Kubo introduces the soldiers to weapons expert Captain Hang. Hang shows the soldiers a new device designed to help them kill the Titans. This device allows them to fly through the air. Hang explains that the Titans' weak point is their necks. So they say if we can target their necks, they will die. As for Eren, he joined the army along with his friend Armin. We understand that Armin also managed to survive the Titans massacre 2 years ago. Eren held himself responsible for Mikasa's death. They meet someone who used to distribute food to them, but his condition was dire because he was always drunk and had lost hope in life. He explains to his comrades that they need to blow up the upper part of the wall so that when it collapses, it will block the hole through which the Titans enter. Yes, the wall would then be shorter, but it would still be taller than the natural size of the Titans. Afterward, they plan to kill the Titans and reclaim their lands. The soldiers prepare to move at sunset because the Titans sleep at night just like humans. The army begins their movement at night, traveling in vehicles. The captain senses that someone is moving ahead of them, so they stop the vehicles. The soldiers get out and start exploring the area, but it turns out that what was ahead were just some cows. One of the team members, named Hyana, hears the sound of a small child crying inside the walls. She thinks the child is in danger and needs help, so she decides to move toward the sound to see the child. Eren decides to follow her so that he doesn't lose Hyana too, like he lost Mikasa. Both of them move deeper inside the walls, and Eren also hears the sound of the small child. Suddenly, a strange creature falls onto Hyana's face. They both look up and see that it is a small Titan child who was eating a regular human. The Titan child falls and starts crying on the ground. The two of them become frightened and start running. At that moment, all the Titan monsters wake up to the sound of the child and surround their team. The captain tries to calm his team so that the Titans don't hear them. But before he can finish speaking, one of the Titans appears and eats the captain. Eren and Hyana try to run back to their team while the Titans chase them. General Kubo notices the danger approaching them and flees with the weapons, leaving his soldiers exposed to danger. The soldiers have no choice but to run, but they encounter one of the Titans. Just as the team is about to be killed, a captain named Shikishima appears with his weapon and attacks the giant monster, targeting its neck and managing to kill it. Another individual with the same weapon appears and kills another Titan. The giant falls to the ground and doesn't get up. The person who did this turns out to be Mikasa. Mikasa sees Eren, but doesn't pay him any attention. Captain Shikishima approaches her, and the two of them depart. Eren is shocked and surprised that she is still alive. It turns out that Shikishima is one of the army soldiers who taught Mikasa how to fight the Titans. By using the new weapon, they can fly and reach the Titans next to kill them. General Kubo shows Shikishima the underground passage that humans will use in case they lose the war against the Titans. Someone named Jean blames Eren for awakening the Titans and tells him that because of him, they all almost died. Eren gets angry at him, and the two start fighting. Mikasa intervenes and breaks up the fight. Shikishima arrives and asks Eren for his name. Afterward, he asks to speak with him privately. Shikishima asks Eren why he hates the Titans. Eren responds straightforwardly, saying, "Because they stole our land and our freedom." However, Shikishima doesn't fully agree with Eren's words. He tells him that humans have put themselves in this danger long ago by imprisoning themselves inside the walls instead of fighting the Titans. Shikishima encourages Eren, telling him that fear is humanity's enemy. Fear is what forces people to run away, not the Titans. He says they must fight the Titans bravely to reclaim their land. Afterward, Eren goes to Mikasa and tells her he is happy to see her alive. But Mikasa wasn't happy at all, ever since the child who was with her was eaten by a Titan. She shows Eren a large scar on her body from the Titan and tells him, "When you left me to face the giant monster alone, Shikishima came and saved me." Later, Shikishima appears, and it becomes evident that he and Mikasa have feelings for each other. Eren feels upset that Mikasa no longer loves him, so he leaves and sits outside yelling. Hyana appears and tries to comfort Eren, attempting to make him forget about Mikasa. She takes him with her to a place and tries to console him, telling him her story about how her husband died 2 years ago when the Titans attacked them. She decided to join the army to earn money and support her daughter. Suddenly, their conversation is interrupted by someone watching them through a small hole. That person starts pulling Hyana to eat her. Eren sees what is happening but is helpless. More Titans appear and begin approaching the soldiers. The soldiers evacuate the area and flee. Those with the flying weapons attack the Titans. Shikishima fights the Titans bravely, killing many of them. Mikasa also joins him, killing one Titan after another. However, some soldiers die, crushed by the Titans. Many soldiers perish because they are scared and don't know how to fight. Kubo orders the soldiers to carry explosives. One of the soldiers cries over her husband who was killed by the Titans. Captain Zelda tries to comfort her, taking her away as she vows to avenge her husband. Captain Hang notices someone stealing an explosive-laden vehicle and fleeing the battlefield. The woman whose husband died jumps onto the vehicle before it escapes, igniting the explosives. She confronts the thief, throws him out, and takes control of the vehicle. She drives toward the Titan who killed her husband, ramming into it with the explosive-laden vehicle, causing a massive explosion. Several Titans fall to the ground, but the explosions are futile because the Titans can regenerate their cells and stand up again, eating people. Eren sees Jean hiding on a rooftop and tells him to fight like the others, but Jean admits his fear. Eren remembers what Shikishima told him earlier about fear. Eren charges toward the Titans with his weapon in a fit of rage, trying to kill them. However, Eren struggles because he doesn't know how to fight or use the weapon properly. Shikishima sees Eren's bravery and begins guiding him on how to kill the Titans. Eren courageously manages to kill one of them. Just as he is about to celebrate his first victory, Eren accidentally flies toward the mouth of one of the Titans. Unfortunately, the giant bites off one of Eren's legs, and Eren falls onto the roof of a building. The soldiers notice that the Titans are surrounding the building where Jean is imprisoned. Armin devises a plan to rescue him. The soldiers start making very loud noises to attract the Titans' attention. Indeed, the Titans get distracted. Jean gets the chance to use the new weapon to attack and kill one of the Titans. Afterward, the soldiers who made the noises begin to flee. Unfortunately, Armin gets caught by one of the Titans. Just as the Titan is about to eat him, everyone intervenes and attacks the Titan. However, their attacks prove ineffective. Eren sees his friend Armin in danger and struggles to move toward the Titan despite his injuries. The Titan opens its mouth to devour Armin, but Eren stands on one leg to save his friend. Armin, after being swallowed, tries to climb out of the Titan's mouth but keeps slipping. At the last moment, Eren appears, grabs Armin's hand, and tries to save him while being inside the Titan's jaws. Eren throws Armin out of the Titan's mouth but falls inside himself and gets swallowed, losing his arm. Eren descends into the Titan's stomach and sees the corpses of humans, including Hyana, who was eaten before his eyes. Eren screams in agony and vows to kill all the Titans. Meanwhile, the remaining soldiers are trapped, and no one knows the whereabouts of General Kubo. Armin tells Mikasa that this is all that's left of Eren. Mikasa looks at Eren's hand in shock and decides to avenge him. She goes on to kill several Titans with ease, but her weapon runs out of gas. Mikasa falls to the ground, and the Titan that ate Eren approaches her. Despite her weapon failing, Mikasa resolves to fight until her last breath. Something strange happens. The Titan recoils in pain, and a hand emerges from its body as it explodes. A red Titan appears from within. The red Titan screams and attacks the other Titans, killing them by targeting their weak points and crushing them underfoot. The soldiers watch in astonishment and joy, not understanding what's happening. They are amazed because they've never seen a Titan attack its own kind before. The red Titan continues to destroy the other Titans. The remaining Titans try to gang up on it and attack, but they fail to kill it. The red Titan is incredibly strong and wipes them out effortlessly. Mikasa, observing the red Titan, feels its fighting style is very familiar to her. Captain Zelda watches the battle and senses that the fighter is Eren. The red Titan manages to eliminate all the Titans alone, roaring ferociously. The remaining Titans flee, avoiding any confrontation with it. The red Titan sees the soldiers on the rooftop and runs toward them. Everyone panics and runs except for Mikasa, who calls out to Eren. The Titan pauses for a moment but then grabs Mikasa and lifts her into the air. It stares at her before recognizing her. Eren regains consciousness, transforms back, falls to the ground, and smoke rises from his body. Mikasa approaches him, cuts his neck with her sword, and manages to pull Eren out of the Titan's body. Eren is alive, and his devoured limbs have regenerated, thanks to his cellular regeneration ability. Everyone is shocked by what they see. Shikishima watches from a distance, seemingly unsurprised by Eren's transformation into a Titan. Eren remains unconscious. A flashback shows Eren as a child. We see Eren's father experimenting on him, injecting him with a serum that altered his DNA. The serum enables Eren to transform into a Titan. Eren's mother opposed the injection, but his father insisted, saying that Eren would play a significant role in saving humanity thanks to the serum. Captain Zelda was present and took Eren to hide him. Later, the government came to arrest Eren's parents because they learned of the secret experiments which were forbidden for commoners. Commander Kubo led the soldiers. When Eren's parents resisted, the soldiers killed them. Meanwhile, Eren and Captain Zelda were in hiding. Commander Kubo burned down the entire library afterward. Captain Zelda took Eren and fled. Back to the present, Eren regains consciousness to find himself tied up with soldiers pointing their weapons at him. General Kubo ordered Eren's arrest because he disapproved of Eren's transformation into a Titan. Kubo had a specific theory and philosophy. He explained how humanity united behind the walls, finding a common enemy in the Titans. Despite the scarcity of food resources, people were happy because everyone was equal. Eren's ability to transform into a Titan threatened this way of life. Kubo also stated that he had never seen a human transform into a Titan before. What Eren did meant he was one of the Titans hiding among humans. Additionally, his destroyed limbs had regenerated, which no ordinary human could do. Eren tries to convince Kubo that he is a regular human, but Kubo insists on killing him. Before Kubo could execute him, Armin intervenes, defending Eren and stating that he saved them and is the only one capable of protecting them from the Titans. Captain Hanji also supports this claim. Kubo orders the soldiers to reload their weapons to kill Eren. However, Captain Zelda intervenes, explaining Eren's power and stating that Eren can control his transformation at will, but loses consciousness when he becomes a Titan. Before Zelda could finish, the soldiers kill him. As Zelda dies, he tries to tell Eren something important but doesn't manage to before passing away. Suddenly, a Titan appears, jumping down from the ceiling. It crushes General Kubo and several soldiers. The remaining soldiers fire at it, but their bullets are ineffective. The Titan is armored with protective plates covering its body. It kills the soldiers effortlessly and grabs Eren. Some soldiers try to fly and attack its neck, but the Titan fends them off, fully aware of their moves. The Titan gives Mikasa a strange look and leaves with Eren. Captain Hanji becomes the new general in place of Kubo. She decides to proceed with the plan to seal the hole in the wall, but first, they must retrieve a bomb from a specific location. Meanwhile, Eren awakens in a strange room. He hears peculiar songs playing from an unknown device, which turns out to be over 100 years old. The songs stop, and Shikishima appears in the room. Shikishima tells Eren, "I saved you from the Titan that captured you, but he couldn't kill him and ran away from me." After that, Shikishima begins showing Eren old videos from 100 years ago. These videos explain how the Titans appeared. It turns out the Titans were originally normal humans. Humans once wanted to create superhumans to use in wars. They succeeded in creating the Titans we know today, after injecting humans with a virus that turned them into Titans. The one who created this virus was Eren's father, but the experiment failed because they lost control of the Titans. Additionally, the virus started spreading among people, causing them to turn into Titans and wreak havoc across the world. Titans are essentially immortal and will continue to live, with nothing reducing their appetite or killing them, except their known weak spot. Afterward, humans entered. A war against the Titans, and the rest we know. Then Shikishima tells Eren that the remaining survivors lived behind the walls up until today. He explains that the government wanted people to forget their past so they could control them more easily. Shikishima also reveals that the attack on the walls was orchestrated by the government to instill fear in people and maintain control over them. However, Shikishima didn't know who in the government was behind everything. Shikishima believed hope lay in Eren because Eren was aware when he transformed into a Titan. He tells him, "You and I can stop the government that enslaves people," and they both leave together. Shikishima shows Eren his men and the explosives they stole from General Kubo. He gives Eren the weapon that enables him to transform. Meanwhile, the soldiers manage to retrieve the bomb they plan to use to seal the breach in the wall. Mikasa recalls her happy memories in that place with Eren. But Shikishima's men appear before them and raise their weapons. Eren appears among them and goes to greet Mikasa. Mikasa is overjoyed to see Eren alive. Shikishima also appears, inspects the bomb the soldiers brought, and announces they will use it for another purpose. He declares, "We will detonate this bomb to destroy the wall, letting all the Titans in to annihilate the army and the government." Eren is shocked by Shikishima's words, as it's the first time he has heard this plan. Eren had thought they would use the bomb to seal the wall. He tells Shikishima, "If we follow your plan, innocent people will die along the way." But Shikishima believed those people deserved to die for allowing themselves to live under the rule of a corrupt government. He tells Eren, "Join me, and we will win." But Eren remembers all the people who died because of the Titans, yells at Shikishima, and refuses to side with him. He charges at Shikishima and attacks him, but Shikishima overpowers him and throws him to the ground. Eren gets up and tries to attack Shikishima again, but Shikishima dodges all his strikes, counterattacks, and knocks Eren down. Mikasa intervenes, asking Shikishima to stop what he's doing, but Shikishima laughs and looks down at her. Mikasa then strikes Shikishima across the face, but he knocks her to the ground as well. Eren becomes furious and attacks him again, but he is defeated once more. Armin and another person named Sanagi want to help Eren in any way they can. They see a partially collapsed building in front of them. Meanwhile, Shikishima raises his weapon at Eren, but Armin tells him to stop, threatening to blow up the entire place with the explosives, killing them all. He orders Sanagi to take Eren and put him in the cart, but Shikishima isn't intimidated by Armin's threats, and orders his men to fire at Armin. Suddenly, a grappling hook flies past his head and attaches to the building. It was Sanagi, who intended to bring the building down on the explosives to detonate them. He tells Armin to escape quickly with the cart. Sanagi begins pulling the building with all his strength, but Shikishima's men shoot at Sanagi, killing him. In his final moments, Sanagi manages to collapse the building onto the explosives, causing a massive explosion. Armin seizes the opportunity to escape with the cart. A huge explosion occurs, killing everyone present, but Shikishima emerges alive and approaches the cart, determined to take the bomb. Then Armin draws his sword and, to everyone's surprise, stabs himself with it. Strange things start appearing on Shikishima's back. Armin flees quickly as Shikishima transforms into one of the Titans. Armin sees this and is shocked, realizing that Shikishima is the Titan who had attacked them and kidnapped them when Kubo died. When Eren sees what happened, he wants to stab himself too and transform, but a prisoner stops him saying, "We're not sure if the same method will work for you." He tells him, "We'll fight together and defeat him." The Titan Shikishima begins approaching them, demonstrating his power by killing two other Titans that appeared in the area. Armin and the others take to the skies using their weapons, heading toward Shikishima. They fly in different directions to distract him. A girl named Sasha attacks Shikishima in the eye, temporarily blinding him. Jean flies around Shikishima, attacking him with swords, and Mikasa also attacks, cutting off his fingers. Eren attacks his knee, bringing him to the ground. Jean tries to take advantage of the opportunity by attacking Shikishima's neck to finish him off, but Shikishima notices, turns around, and is about to strike him. Eren intervenes, taking the hit instead of Jean. He stands up and heads toward the bomb. Before he can reach it, he transforms into a titan after being struck by Shikishima. The two roar in anger and begin exchanging punches. But every time Eren attacks Shikishima, he gets hurt because Shikishima's titan body is covered in armor. Shikishima dominates the fight, knocking Eren to the ground. He is about to finish Eren off for good, but Eren grabs a giant rod from the ground and strikes Shikishima with it. The rod pierces Shikishima's armor. Eren gathers his strength and delivers a blow to Shikishima's face, sending him crashing into a building. Shikishima is defeated and begins reverting to his human form. Eren screams in victory, grabs the bomb, places it on his back, and climbs the wall. Eren and his soldier comrades are coming behind him, and Eren reaches a certain point after which he loses all his energy, but they quickly place the bomb in its position before he collapses and loses consciousness. Mikasa notices that Eren is exhausted and tired, so she goes to him and attacks his nape with knives. And indeed, Eren returns to his normal state. Armin then adjusts the bomb to explode after 5 minutes, giving them time to escape. However, a surprise occurs as they see General Kubo still alive, standing on the wall. Somehow, he managed to survive. Kubo tells them, "I will give you money and power, but in return, you must leave the wall as it is and hand Eren over to the government." The team refuses all of Kubo's demands. Kubo fires at them, injuring Armin in the leg. Kubo mocks them, saying, "You are all fools." Before he could continue speaking, Sasha suddenly shoots him with arrows, causing Kubo to fall off the wall. Kubo then transforms into a massive titan, revealing that he was the titan who destroyed the wall with his foot 2 years ago, allowing the titans to enter. At first, the team is shocked, but then they attack Kubo. However, they cannot approach him easily because of his extremely high body heat. Kubo grabs the bomb and tries to prevent it from exploding. Jean attacks Kubo, trying to stop him from destroying the bomb, but Jean is killed with a single strike from Kubo. Afterward, Kubo tries to grab Eren, but a rocket is fired at him by Captain Hang. Despite his injury, Kubo still tries to reach the bomb. At that moment, Eren gets the chance to attack him from behind, approaching his nape to kill him. Meanwhile, the 5 minutes for the bomb to explode are up, but strangely, it doesn't detonate. This is because Kubo managed to destroy the bomb's reactor. Mikasa heads toward the reactor to fix it, but she doesn't know how to repair it. It turns out that Shikishima is still alive after his battle with Eren, and he appears before Mikasa. Shikishima is upset that they chose protection over freedom and tells her, "Humans will always keep repairing the wall and hiding." Mikasa responds, saying, "We still have hope to save people if we kill the change named Kubo." At the same time, Eren manages to reach Kubo's nape and slashes it with his sword. However, Kubo grabs Eren like an insect before Eren can finish him off. Kubo is about to kill Eren, but Shikishima intervenes, climbing the building with the bomb. Kubo drops Eren from his hand, and Shikishima jumps onto Kubo while holding the bomb, throwing it into Kubo's mouth. Due to Kubo's body heat, the bomb explodes inside him, killing both of them. Thus, Shikishima sacrifices himself to kill Kubo. The explosion destroys the upper part of the wall, causing rocks to fall. Eren, caught in the falling debris, tries to save himself, but Mikasa grabs his hand and rescues him. The rocks fall and block the opening through which the Titans were entering. Eren and Mikasa save themselves, climb the wall, and stand on top of it, seeing the sea for the first time in their lives. In doing so, they fulfill their dream. They are amazed by the beauty of the sea, marking the end of the 2 parts. If you've made it to the end of the episode, don't forget to like and subscribe. Welcome to Cinema Bites, your go-to for movie recaps in a flash. Big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes. The movie starts in a small town in France. Charles is going to school with Remy, who mentions during the trip that he's saving a lot of money from his new job, but Charles has always been an emotionless child, so he didn't show any reaction to the news. After school, the boy returns home, does his homework, and decides to prick his hand with a pin, to learn to ignore pain. But Yvonne interrupts him and calls him for dinner. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Mrs. Margaret receives her children, who bring her a special gift for her birthday. When she opens the box, she finds Baxter, a white bull terrier who was a stray, and was rescued from the local animal shelter. Once freed from his leash, the dog runs wildly around the house, knocking over many things, breaking vases and scattering her clothes. At the beauty salon, Margaret tells the hairdresser about Baxter's behavior, but the man says it's natural and that they'll get used to their new life in time. On her way home, she is with her friend Andrea, who suggests that if she doesn't feel safe with the dog, she should call her daughter Florence to take him back to the shelter. But she doesn't know that this dog is actually very smart and can think more than any other animal, with keen observations of human habits and behavior. Baxter considers the only happy moment of his day to be when he runs in the garden, experiencing freedom and hunting small wild rats. But this pleasure doesn't last long because Margaret always forces him to stay indoors. Over time, Margaret and Baxter become friends, and this friendship makes her abandon the idea of returning the animal. A few days later, while playing cards in a restaurant, Andrea asks about Baxter and notices that his friend is still hesitant about the dog. He suggests calling Florence to take the dog back to the shelter. Margaret's friend refuses and tells the old man to stop interfering in her life and leave her dog alone, as he is now her new companion. To avoid upsetting his friend further, Andrea apologizes, saying it was all a misunderstanding. But the woman doesn't care and leaves the table. Over time, Baxter becomes puzzled by Margaret, as she never does anything fun and doesn't give him any orders, making him think she's waiting for the right time to eat him or get rid of him. Watching the neighborhood from the window, the dog notices that the neighbors are moving out and a new couple is moving into their house, encouraging him to get to know them. That night, Charles returns home, and when he notices his mother having another party with her friends, he tries to sneak to his room unnoticed. But Yvonne finds him and asks him to greet the guests. Afterward, the boy goes to his room, enjoying looking at many pictures of soldiers' battles during World War II. At Margaret's house, Baxter continues to observe the daily life of the new couple. When he notices that his owner will prevent him from staying at the window, he decides to attack her. The next day, after hearing that her mother had fallen and gotten hurt, Florence goes to Margaret's house and puts some bandages on her legs. Later, Margaret gets up, and the shelter owner helps her walk around the house, asking about Baxter's strange behavior. He suggests that the dog might have felt abandoned by his previous owner. The man explains that since he was given to the old lady, he might have interpreted it as betrayal and felt worthless to his old owner. At that moment, Florence brings some sheets and asks her mother to sleep on the ground floor for a while, as she won't be able to climb the stairs with her injured leg. So Margaret spends a few nights on the sofa bed, while Baxter continues spying on the neighbors. Charles, at home, watches a documentary about World War II and enjoys seeing the constructions made by the Soviets, deciding to imitate them. He prints a plan for one of the shelters built by military leaders. The next morning, Andrea goes to the beauty salon and asks about Margaret's whereabouts, but the hairdresser replies that he doesn't know where she is because she canceled her appointment 3 weeks ago. Hearing this, the old man becomes worried and goes to the woman's house. But when she senses Andrea's presence, she decides to avoid him and closes all the windows so he won't notice her. After a few days, Baxter notices that Margaret is increasingly affected by severe loneliness, changing her behavior, making the dog stay close to his owner. Andrea, realizing she won't welcome him, decides to go home. From there, he calls Margaret, but she continues to ignore him and goes to take a shower. To get closer to her pet, the woman pulls the dog into the bathtub, but Baxter gets terrified and escapes the room, climbing the stairs. Feeling guilty for what she did, Margaret goes to her dog trying to climb the stairs while apologizing for scaring him, promising to bring him delicious food and let him play in the garden for a while. The next day, Andrea remains worried about his friend, fearing she might be in danger, so he decides to visit her again, breaking the door to enter the house, causing Baxter to flee the place quickly. The dog runs towards the neighbor's house, entering their room during a romantic moment. When Amy notices his presence, she warns her husband, who goes to the window to understand how Baxter managed to escape the house. When he does, he is shocked to see Andrea screaming for help, saying that Mrs. Margaret fell from the stairs and got injured. Unfortunately, Margaret died. At Margaret's funeral, Amy meets Florence and asks her to take care of Baxter, as she doesn't like pets at all. The dog feels a new happiness as he can now enjoy the sounds and smells in the garden with his new owner, where they treat him like their child. A few days later, Amy throws a surprise birthday party for Jim and presents a crazy show with Baxter. After the amazing dance performance, the woman goes to her husband and reveals she's pregnant, making the man very happy. Meanwhile, Charles continues to develop his shelter plan, and after gathering all the necessary materials for the structures, he goes to the scrapyard. The boy quickly starts building, digging a large hole to expand his shelter. Over time, Baxter feels gradually forgotten by his owners, and the husband is very excited about the baby's arrival. The dog decides to get closer to Jim and be with him more because he enjoys interacting with the dirt in the garden. But after the baby is born, Baxter is locked in the garage at home, and this made him very angry because he was abandoned once again by his friends. One day, Jim freed the animal again and allowed it to meet their new son. When Baxter saw the child, he was confused because he would never understand the love humans feel towards their children. He continued to look at the weak child who had no teeth or hair. Baxter behaved very gently so that his owner wouldn't keep him locked in the garage. Jim asked the dog to be very gentle with his son so they could live happily together in his friend's garden. Baxter tried to think of a plan to get rid of the child, but it was very difficult because Jane was always watching the baby. So Baxter decided to wait until she was a little distracted and push the baby into the pool to get rid of him, then pretend to help after it was too late. Meanwhile, Charles went to the old junkyard and entered his hideout. He found his control panel with its electrical system, and the turbines were working. He made sure everything was working well. But at that moment, Margaret's spirit appears and starts talking to him. She told him that now was the time for him to rest, and that they should let the young people lead the world as they wanted, so that they could deal with the hardships and disappointments later on. When Andrea heard the words of the spirit before his end, he slept on her shoulder and lost his life at the same moment. When Charles returned home, he met his father, who asked him to choose a gift quickly because his birthday was coming up and he was hesitant. The boy went to his room, and there he saw many pictures of famous people with their pets. This made him finally know what he wanted for his birthday. The next day, the Baxter family gathered in the garden again. When Baxter noticed that the couple had moved away about the garden, the dog moved quickly and went towards the baby to throw him into the pool. But the dog barked too early and warned the couple, which made Jim save his son in time, which made Baxter's plan fail completely. Of course, the couple was worried about their son, so Jim and Amy decided to make an advertisement for someone to adopt the dog. This caught Charles' attention after that. The boy went to the couple's house with Michael. After he gathered everything for the dog, they took him home after a few days. Very quickly, Charles and Baxter became friends, so he decided to beat him up to make him stronger and more dangerous. He started training him while he was beating up ragdolls and running in the streets next to his new friend. Baxter feels that he has finally found the person he has been dreaming of and will be happy with him. At this time, Charles has developed his dog's skills more, and this has made him comfortable to take orders at any time. During his trip on the school bus, the boy continued to collect pictures of the war, but they were interrupted by his classmate Eva, who asked him to. She sits next to him because she loves Charles. The girl tried to get closer to him, but when she felt that the boy did not care about her, she left the chair and walked. When Charles returned to his secret hiding place, he noticed a car coming towards the junkyard and decided to go out to see what was happening. When the boy approached, he discovered that Baxter was under the car, and this made the driver very angry. After what, they calmed down the dog. The fanatic man told Charles that he should not leave his dog without it being tied up because this could cause big problems in the future. At that time, the boy discovered that Ava was inside the car, and the girl revealed that was her father who had come to take some things from the place when she noticed that the man was returning. The girl said that she would take her dog for a walk with her for a while after that, and that would allow her to visit her friend. In the middle of the night, the driver returned home, and when he noticed that Ava was wearing his wife's clothes, he got annoyed and asked her where she intended to go. While she was trying to hide her plans, the girl said that she would only walk with her dog, but the crazy man did not believe him and broke his daughter's radio, which made the girl angry and she left. After that, the girl became a piece of junk, and when Charles noticed that his friend was approaching, he locked Baxter in the hideout to prevent his friend from disrupting the meeting while he was enjoying the view in the place. Eva revealed that she intended to escape from the city and went to live with her mother, who was like her. So she left the house because she could not bear to live next to her father, who was constantly disrespecting her. During the conversation, Baxter began barking nonstop, and when she asked him about the reason for Charles's behavior, he told her that he just locked him up so that he would not bother them, but the girl did not listen to him. The boy decided to free the dog, who quickly tried to get close to his new owner. After a while, Baxter felt that Charles was not being treated the same way and tried to get his owner back, who was very angry because he did not listen to him and rejected the dog and also ordered him to stay away from him. At that moment, a street dog went towards the junkyard, and Baxter, to protect his land, he went towards him and started fighting. When Charles noticed what was happening, he quickly went to separate the animals, but when he saw that his dog was winning, he retreated and let the dog continue fighting. He knew how strong his master was. The boy started treating him with more respect because now he could use the dog as a fighting machine. One day, during his bus trip, Eva went to her friend. She revealed that her dog had given birth to puppies from Baxter, but her father did not like to take care of so many animals, and he ordered his daughter to get rid of the dogs herself, instead of him doing so. When he saw the little dogs, Charles offered to adopt them because he had ideas about what they could do with the little dogs. The next day, while he was guarding the area around the hideout, the boy met Remy, who still loves to collect cans to get money. He was looking for something to recycle among this junk. The boy decided to go down into the hole. At that time, Charles appeared and ordered Baxter to attack his friend while he was removing the ladder from the hole. Remy was terrified and asked. The boy wanted to leave him, but Charles ignored him and asked his dog to finish off Remy. But Baxter felt that his friend misunderstood him because he doesn't kill his targets without an important reason, and this made him stand still and let Remy escape. Charles became very angry with the dog because he didn't listen to his crazy words, animal confinement, the garage, and hit him a lot as punishment. With time, the boy became more agitated, and after examining the bodies of the two little dogs, he decided to get rid of them because he felt that they might have made Baxter weak. Now that he was left outside the junkyard without food or drink, Baxter was terrified, and this made his natural instincts return. He started running and smelling the scent. His sons, the dogs who disappeared during his search, were able to smell them close to him, and when he found the bodies, he became very angry because he immediately understood that Charles was the one who killed them and threw them in the hole. Charles, who was very angry with the dog for not listening to him, appeared. The boy decided to attack him and threw many things at him, which made the dog scared and tried to escape. The problem was that Baxter was completely trapped amidst the junk in the place, leaving him with no choice but to wait until his punishment was over. To finish him off completely, the boy grabbed a large metal barrel and tried to throw it at the dog, but its weight made him stumble, slip, and fall in front of the dog. When he felt he could finally take revenge, Baxter went towards the crazy boy. But when he heard the sounds his owner had taught him during training, he couldn't disobey at that moment and sat on the ground, becoming completely weak. The angry Charles grabbed a metal rod from the junk and hit the dog repeatedly to end its life. A few hours passed until Michael and Yvonne searched for their son in the junkyard. When they saw him still beating Baxter's dead body, the man quickly went to the boy, who lied and said the dog was going to kill him, leaving him no choice but to defend himself. Hearing this, Michael said everything would be okay, and after hugging their son, the couple took him home. Over time, Charles felt more attracted to the neighbors, so he decided to plan a big accident to cause a major fire in his house and kill his father and mother. This is the end of the film, and we'll meet in another summary. Hey there, Cinemaster fans! Hope you're ready for some movie magic. Let's dive right in. Our movie begins with Clint, who works in the construction field. He sends voice messages to his wife Joanna, telling her they should go out together today, and that he will be home soon so they can have lunch together. But we see that Joanna is annoyed by this and doesn't want to go out with him. Joanna then goes outside to receive a letter that arrived in the mail, and their dog keeps barking, which annoys her even more. Clint, on his way home, is stopped by a police car. It turns out the officer is his friend, and he suggests they go fishing together. Clint agrees but says he will confirm later if he doesn't go out with Joanna. When Clint gets home, he lets the dog out of its cage and asks Joanna if she listened to the voice message he sent about going out. She replies that she did, but has a doctor's appointment at 2 and plans to visit her friend Maggie afterwards, so she's not free today. Clint tells her that in that case, he'll go fishing with Officer Sam instead. It becomes clear that Joanna is unhappy seeing Clint. He tells her that someone offered him $500,000 to buy one of his projects, but he refused because he doesn't want to leave the city. Joanna dismissively says they already have plenty of money, but expresses her frustration with living in the countryside and wanting to return to New York. Clint explains that he built their home in the countryside for her and their future children to grow up in a clean, healthy environment. Joanna reveals that she's been trying to get pregnant for a year and a half without success and feels trapped in the countryside like a caged rat. Clint tries to console her, saying at least they have each other, but Joanna coldly tells him to enjoy it alone and walks away. Clint later goes fishing with Sam and shares his marital troubles, saying Joanna hasn't changed since they got married. Meanwhile, Joanna visits her doctor Cortland, who promises to open a clinic in her name and make her as famous as a movie star. He tells her they will live in unimaginable luxury and assures her that the money for the clinic will be easy to obtain. When Joanna asks how, Cortland reveals a vial of toxic fish venom that can stop Clint's heart quickly, making it look like a natural heart attack. He instructs her to put it in Clint's food or drink, and the venom will do the rest. He explains that after Clint's death, she will inherit his company and assets, which they can sell. Joanna laughs, surprised at how simple the crime sounds, but later hesitates and confesses her fears to Cortland. He tries to convince her, but she remains undecided. When Joanna returns home, she throws the poison vial into the trash. That night, Clint returns from fishing. The next day, Joanna prepares lunch for Clint, who tells her he will be working in the workshop, While Clint is cutting wood with a saw, making noise that bothers Joanna, she looks at the trash can containing the poison and reconsiders. She retrieves the vial and pours its contents into a glass of wine. When Clint comes in, he takes both glasses to the table. Joanna watches anxiously, unsure which glass contains the poison. As Clint drinks, symptoms begin to appear. He collapses, writhing in pain, and pleads for her help, but Joanna coldly tells him to die and free her from him. Clint dies, and Joanna calls Cortland to inform him of her success. Cortland congratulates her and advises her to call the doctor and police, promising to handle the situation from his side. Officer Sam arrives, suspicious that a young man like Clint could die of a heart attack. Two doctors, including Cortland, examine Clint's body. Cortland dismisses Sam's concerns, saying sudden heart attacks in young people aren't uncommon. However, Sam notices the poison vial on the floor and grows suspicious. He suggests an autopsy, but both doctors discourage it, claiming the cause of death is obvious. Later, Clint's body is taken to the morgue. In the cold storage, we see Clint's body begin to move slightly. It turns out the venom's effects have worn off. Clint wasn't buried in an expensive coffin, as Joanna had opted for the cheapest option. This allows Clint to break out of the weak coffin and claw his way out of the grave. Clint returns home, still weak, and spies on Joanna and Cortland celebrating their crime. He hides, waiting for the right moment to confront them. Meanwhile, Joanna meets with a lawyer to discuss selling Clint's company for $1.5 million and transferring the money to her account. Clint, now fully awake and determined, prepares to confront his unfaithful wife and her lover. And he went in to drink because he was dying of thirst. He opened the fridge and ate everything that was there. He looked out the window and saw his wife arriving. So, he went back to the basement, grabbed the rifle and bullets, but the bullets fell. He bent down to pick them up, still feeling weak, and loaded the rifle with the bullets he found. He left the basement, determined to kill Joanna. But Officer Sam arrived, so he decided to hide. Sam came to check on her, asking if she needed anything, and started telling her about Clint. He told her that Clint built this house with his own hands and started from scratch. He then asked, "I heard you're putting the house up for sale?" She replied, "Yes, it's too big for me now, and I can't live here alone anymore." He asked if she was also considering selling his company, and she said, "Yes, because I don't understand that kind of work." Joanna appeared tense from Sam's questions, and she became suspicious when she noticed someone had eaten from the fridge. At that moment, Cortland also arrived and pretended in front of Officer Sam that he was Joanna's doctor. Sam greeted them and left. Joanna and Cortland entered the house. Clint noticed he had only loaded one bullet into the rifle, so he went back to the basement to get another bullet and finish them off. Joanna told Cortland that Sam had asked many questions and seemed suspicious of them. She said, "We must sell everything quickly." Cortland replied, "There's no need to rush. You'll have all the money tomorrow." Clint climbed the stairs to kill them, but overheard Cortland telling Joanna, "You'll finally be pregnant with my child." It turned out Joanna had been secretly taking birth control pills to avoid having children with Clint. Clint became very angry after hearing this, and decided not to kill them with the rifle, as it would be too easy and quick. He waited until Joanna fell asleep that night, grabbed scissors, went to the bathroom, treated and bandaged his hand, and prepared himself. Later, the buyers for Clint's company arrived. They showed Joanna the money they were offering for the company. She couldn't believe it and was overjoyed after they left with the money. Officer Sam learned in the street that Clint's body was missing, and no one knew what had happened. He said he wanted the coffin brought to his house in secret, promising to investigate discreetly. Joanna entered the bathroom, found it in disarray, and couldn't understand what had happened. Terrified, she thought there was a burglar in the house. She sent Cortland a voice message, asking him to come immediately. She went downstairs with a stick and found the dog barking at her. She thought the dog was the one in the bathroom. The dog kept barking, and Joanna became more frightened. She vomited, then retrieved the rifle from the basement and loaded it. Suddenly, Clint appeared, and Joanna shot him, shocked and fainting afterward. The door shut behind her. Later, it was revealed Clint wasn't harmed by the bullets. He barricaded all entrances and exits to the basement with wood. Cortland was seen elsewhere, receiving a voice message, one from his landlord threatening to call the police over unpaid rent. It turned out his real name wasn't Cortland but Van Ewan. After hearing Joanna's message, he rushed to her house carrying a syringe containing poison. He searched for her, found the bag of money and took it. Joanna regained consciousness, heard him calling for her, and attacked him, knocking him unconscious and taking the bag. She initially thought Cortland had locked her in the basement to steal the money. As she climbed the stairs, she encountered Clint wearing a mask. He locked the door, and she realized Cortland wasn't the one terrorizing her. When Cortland regained consciousness, she apologized and explained about the stranger who had trapped them. She said, "I'm certain I shot him, but nothing happened." Cortland asked if she had told anyone about the money. She replied, "No, I thought it was you who locked me up at first." He said, "Joanna, how could I lock you up? I love you. I'd burn all this money for you." She believed him and hugged him. Cortland then ran upstairs, grabbed the rifle, loaded it, and shot at the door handle, but nothing happened. The bullets were revealed to be fake, replaced with weak material. That's why Clint wasn't harmed when Joanna shot him. Cortland declared he wouldn't give up. He tried breaking the wooden barriers blocking the air vents, but when he succeeded, he found the dog staring at him and retreated in fear. Clint had altered the house entirely, his eyes filled with hatred and vengeance. By morning, Joanna and Cortland had been trapped for about 8 hours. Cortland speculated, "The only person who could have done this is Officer Sam. He won't stop unless he gets a share of the money, or all of it. But I won't let him. I'll kill him, and we'll see who wins in the end." Joanna noticed the syringe containing poison on the floor and hid it. She challenged Cortland, "Burn the money if you really love me." Cortland was shocked and said, "You're crazy. This money is our only way out." She asked, "Are you willing to die for me?" He said, "Of course." She pulled out the syringe and said, "Let me kill you with this because you've been using me all along to get the money." Cortland admitted, "Honestly, what clinic was I going to open for you anyway?" Joanna attacked him with the syringe, but he overpowered her and was about to kill her when the basement door opened. They decided to save the syringe for whoever had trapped them. They argued about who would go out first. When they exited, they found the house completely changed. Clint had blocked them in with wooden barriers again, leaving them trapped. They searched for a way out but couldn't find one. They came across a wooden door, opened it, and found themselves in a maze-like area. Meanwhile, Officer Sam was thinking about Clint's body. He examined the coffin and found it broken. He tested the coffin, hitting it from the outside and inside. And we go back home, and Joanna and Cortland started hinting to each other about the idea of killing Clint. Suddenly, another door appeared and separated them. Cortland saw a shadow in front of him, thinking it was Sam. He said to him, "We can split the money from the bag." Clint wasn't responding. So, Cortland approached him with the syringe in his hand, saying, "Fine, you can have all the money." Clint revealed himself and showed his face, which shocked Cortland, causing him to fall, and the syringe accidentally entered him. He stayed alive for an hour before dying, and we got rid of him. Meanwhile, a door opened in front of Joanna and behind her. Clint appeared wearing a mask, so she started running until Clint cornered her from all directions, making her feel like she was in a coffin. She asked the person trapping her, "Why are you doing this to me?" Clint replied, "I've trapped you like a rat in a cage." At that moment, Joanna realized it was Clint. He asked her, "The baby you aborted, was it a boy or a girl?" Then he threw Cortland's corpse at her and nailed their coffin shut, poured gasoline everywhere, and set the house on fire. After that, Clint left with his loyal dog. There was a big box in the bag. Sam arrived at the house and saw it burning. The ambulance came and put out the fire, telling Sam that there was no one inside. Sam went to Clint's grave and found him standing there, petting his puppy. They talked, and Sam understood what had happened. He told Clint, "Don't show up here again so no one knows you killed them." Clint agreed, left, and walked away. It turned out Clint had buried Joanna alive with the money and Cortland's body. And with that, we've reached the end of the episode. Stay tuned for the upcoming. Welcome to Cinema Bites, your go-to for movie recaps in a flash, big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes. The movie starts in 1945. We see two American soldiers returning to their homeland after World War II. Moments later, they realize something strange is happening in the sky. They discover they have entered the Bermuda Triangle. The plane's systems start to fail, and suddenly, they see a massive bird attacking their plane. The two soldiers are forced to jump from the aircraft, opening their parachutes. The first soldier lands safely on the island. The second soldier, however, lands in the water, and suddenly, a massive crocodile emerges and devours him. The soldier on the island witnesses this and ends up alone on the island filled with giant creatures. Years pass, and we transition to the present day. A plane is flying over the Bermuda Triangle. The passengers have no idea what is about to happen to them. We are introduced to one of the passengers named Hao, who is traveling with his daughter, Lynn. Hao is not pleased with Lynn's boyfriend, Shane, who is also on the plane. He questions Lynn about how long she has known Shane, but Lynn responds rudely to her father. Hao glares angrily at Shane. Before Hao can confront him, the plane begins to shake violently. All the passengers panic and quickly put on oxygen masks. Things worsen when the pilots realize the plane's systems have failed. They are forced to attempt a gentle landing, heading toward the nearest island. As they descend, they spot massive birds ahead. The birds cause damage to the plane, destroying the engine. The plane crashes rapidly into the ocean. The pilots try to control the aircraft as much as they can, but part of the plane is destroyed, and passengers are thrown out. Hao tries desperately to reach his daughter and finally manages to sit beside her and fasten her seatbelt. The plane crashes into the water and skids along the surface. The pilots are shocked to see massive rocks ahead. The plane collides with the rocks, causing the cockpit to explode, and the passenger section is flung away. The passengers lose consciousness. Hao wakes up after some time, rescues his daughter, and takes her to the island. They find that only a few passengers have survived, while many have perished. The survivors are shocked to discover that their water supply is almost depleted and that there is no network signal on the island, leaving them with no means of escape. Hao, Shane, and another man decide to explore the island. After walking for a while, they find a small house covered in trees. Inside, they discover a knife, which Hao takes, and a journal from the World War II era. The third man, an English teacher, interprets the writings in the journal and learns that the island is filled with giant monsters. Realizing the danger, they rush back to the beach to warn the others. Meanwhile, back at the beach, a man named Fang is arguing with the plane's attendant over a bottle of water. Another man, Li, intervenes and stops Fang, even hitting him in the face. The two men fight and fall to the ground, while the attendant tries to calm them down. No one else intervenes. Li's pregnant wife steps in and manages to calm her husband, but Fang is still angry and pushes the attendant into the water. The people on the beach notice something approaching in the water. Suddenly, a crocodile appears and devours the attendant. Everyone witnesses the horrifying scene and starts running in panic. More crocodiles emerge onto the beach, attacking and eating those who couldn't escape in time. Moments later, Hao and his group return to the beach, shocked to find no one there. They see crocodile tracks and believe some people might still be alive, so they set out to find them. Meanwhile, the survivors are still running from the crocodiles chasing them. The crocodiles are fast and manage to catch and eat several people. The group splits into two, each heading in a different direction. The group with Li and his pregnant wife reaches a quiet area and discovers fresh water, which they drink. Soon, they hear noises from the forest, but it turns out to be Hao and his group. Shane tells Lin he has brought a hammer to kill the crocodiles when they appear. Hao sarcastically responds that Shane couldn't even kill a chicken. The ground starts shaking, and loud noises fill the air. Everyone freezes in fear, unaware that a massive crocodile had been hiding behind the rocks all along. The giant crocodile emerges in its full size, climbing onto the rocks. It approaches one of its victims, glaring angrily. The man is so terrified that he loses control of himself. The crocodile devours the man as the others watch helplessly. The group runs away immediately, but the crocodile chases them. It leaps toward Hao to attack him, but Hao manages to escape at the last moment. The crocodile then spots a woman trapped between the rocks and devours her in one bite. The rest of the group manages to escape and reach safety. Hao leads them to the house they found earlier and tells them they will hide there for the time being. As Shane tries to enter, Hao stops him, sarcastically reminding him of his earlier claim about killing crocodiles. Hao assigns Shane to guard the house while they sleep in case any crocodiles appear. Hao, injured from his earlier escape, uses gunpowder from bullets his daughter found to cauterize his wound, enduring immense pain. At night, the group gathers around a fire as Hao ties ropes around the house to keep the crocodiles out. They eat the remaining food from the plane. Later, Hao and the English teacher are startled when a human skeleton falls from a tree. They believe it belonged to the person who wrote the journal they found. The next morning, while everyone is asleep, Hao ventures out to find food for the group, especially his daughter. His daughter wakes up to find food, and on the other side, Fang was still alive and with him was someone named Lichi. Lichi wanted to film and document what was happening on the island so she could post the videos online when she returned to her country and become famous. She finds herself stepping on a very sticky substance and slipping on something that releases the sticky material. Her entire face gets covered in it, and she doesn't know what it is. She asks Fang to help her wipe it off, but Fang is disgusted and refuses. So she walks off to clean herself, unaware that the thing she bumped into was a giant spider egg that hadn't hatched yet. Meanwhile, Lin wakes up and leaves the place to look for her father. They discover they are surrounded by giant insects, and the air is filled with smoke. Lin wakes up the others to escape quickly before they get eaten, because the house they were in was not sturdy and could easily collapse. They manage to leave and move quietly through the smoke to avoid attracting the insects' attention. Luckily, the insects were asleep, but one of the humans gets some insect fluid on his head. At that moment, the giant insect wakes up and eats the person. The team witnesses what happened and realizes all the insects are now awake and heading toward them. Without much thought, they start running, with the insects chasing after them. They scream, and their voices attract more insects. As they run through the forest, they encounter a giant spider blocking their path. The spider begins attacking them with its legs, but fortunately the teacher appears and distracts the spider. The spider leaves them and goes after the teacher, but the group doesn't have time to catch their breath because more spiders are approaching. They run in terror, and Lynn gets caught in a spider web. Everyone stops to help her, freeing her from the web, and they continue running. Eventually, they manage to escape the insects and hide under some plants, hoping the spiders will go away. They hear someone approaching. It's Hao. Hao notices insects on the trees and screams to attract their attention, luring them away to give his teammates a chance to escape. Hao successfully distracts them and escapes from the spiders, running back to the house where he finds the teacher. But they didn't know a spider was waiting outside, setting a trap. The two were waiting for the right moment to leave, but suddenly, the spider attacks from behind, injuring the teacher. Hao fights back, cutting off part of the spider's legs. The spider retreats, but the teacher is gravely injured and dies within seconds. Hao is left alone, with the spider waiting above the house. The spider attacks again, smashing into the walls and breaking them. It grabs Hao by the leg, trying to finish him off, but Hao manages to escape and runs as fast as he can. He throws the bomb he took from his daughter at the spider, causing it to explode and die. On the other side, the team survives and escapes the spider area completely, reaching a small river they need to cross to get to the other side. Kicks her several times to make her let go. The crocodile ends up eating her entirely. The story returns to the team walking through the forest, where they unexpectedly find the remains of a crashed plane. It seems to belong to the soldiers who died at the very beginning. They search the wreckage for anything useful and find a weapon and a working transmitter. Lynn uses the transmitter to contact someone and ask for help. Someone responds, and Lynn gives them their exact location. The person on the other end promises to send rescue planes. The team feels hopeful that they might survive and heads quickly toward the beach. Along the way, they encounter Fang. The team doesn't trust Fang at all, but they have no other choice and let him join them. Hao warns Fang to stay away from his daughter and not try anything deceitful. The team eventually reaches a large river they need to cross. Since the pregnant woman, Jia, can't swim, the team helps her by building a raft from plants. Hao volunteers to pull her across the river. After successfully reaching the other side, the rest of the team enters the water and swims across. Everything seems calm and things are going according to plan, but Hao becomes worried when he spots the giant crocodile nearby. The group becomes terrified and swims quickly. Lin and Shen manage to reach the other side. Fang panics and starts swimming in the opposite direction. Lei, who was still in the water, pushes his wife's raft to the shore but realizes there's no hope as the crocodile gets closer. Lei sacrifices himself for his wife, and the crocodile eats him. Jia screams and cries for her husband. Fang joins the group, and the crocodile turns its attention toward them. Fang shoots at the crocodile with the weapon they found, giving the rest of the team a chance to escape. However, the gunfire has no effect on the crocodile. It comes ashore and chases them. Fang tries to stop the crocodile, continuing to shoot at it, but it's useless. He narrowly escapes the crocodile's jaws multiple times, but the crocodile shifts its focus to chasing the rest of the team. They split into two groups, and Fang trips and falls. Lin sees him and decides to go back to help him, but the cowardly Fang pushes her toward the crocodile and runs away. The crocodile notices her and moves closer to her, but Hao appears and unleashes a torrent of gunfire on the crocodile. The crocodile gets distracted with Hao, who keeps firing repeatedly. The crocodile focuses entirely on Hao, allowing Lin to take the opportunity to escape. The repeated gunfire eventually causes damage to the crocodile, and its skin begins to weaken. However, by mistake, a bullet hits Feng's leg, causing him to fall to the ground. The crocodile notices Feng on the ground and moves toward him. Lin accidentally gets tangled with the crocodile's leg, and Feng suddenly suffers a heart attack from the immense pressure he feels, collapsing to the ground. The crocodile easily devours Feng's body. The crocodile leaves with Lin clinging to it. Night falls, and they manage to track the crocodile's movements to its cave. Hao decides to enter the cave with the others. They proceed cautiously inside the cave and find the crocodile asleep. Shen orders Jia to leave the cave, but before leaving, Jia notices remains of her husband's body on the ground, causing her to break down in tears. Her crying awakens the crocodile, putting the group in danger. However, Jia calms down and stops crying just in time. Hao then searches for his daughter, remaining cautious of the monster. Hao eventually finds Lin still alive and takes her to escape. But before they leave, Shen notices the monster is no longer in its place and realizes it's right behind him. This becomes a major problem, and Shen freezes in place like a statue due to the situation. Hao, with no other choice, opens fire on the crocodile to save himself and everyone else. Shen grabs Lin and escapes the cave while the crocodile heads toward Hao. Hao runs deeper into the cave with the crocodile chasing him. Hao manages to hide in a small crevice, escaping the crocodile's jaws. Meanwhile, Shen takes Lin out of the cave and hands her over to Jia. He decides to return to rescue Hao, taking a hammer with him. Hao runs out of places to hide, and the crocodile is about to devour him. Hao runs in desperation without a plan and eventually enters a small tunnel. He keeps firing at the crocodile's face, but the bullets are ineffective. Hao runs out of ammunition and realizes he dropped the grenade he had in the tunnel. At that moment, Shen arrives, and Hao orders him to quickly find the grenade before the crocodile destroys the entrance and devours him. Shen searches for the grenade and manages to find it. He returns to the crocodile and throws the hammer at it, causing the crocodile to focus on Shen. This gives Hao a chance to escape. The crocodile begins chasing Shen, who removes the grenade's pin and throws it at the crocodile. A massive explosion occurs, shaking the cave and causing significant damage to the crocodile. The crocodile falls to the ground, seemingly dead. After witnessing what happened, Hao approaches Shen and tells him, "I was wrong. You turned out to be a very brave boy." But before they leave, they realize the crocodile is still alive. Hao grabs a knife and falls from the rocks, attacking the crocodile from below. The attack is enough to finally kill the crocodile. It collapses to the ground and dies for real this time. Shen helps pull Hao out from under the crocodile. Hao is alive, and they both leave the cave together, reuniting with Lin and Jia. They leave the dangerous area and reach the shore. At that moment, rescue helicopters arrive to pick them up. And that's the end of the episode. Don't forget to hit the like button and help us reach 8,000 likes for this episode. If you made it to the end, leave a crocodile emoji in the comments so I know who enjoyed the episode. Hey there, Cinemaster fans! Hope you're ready for some movie magic. Let's dive right in. Our movie today begins with two sisters named Ginger and Bridget. We see them riding a horse together through the forest. The weather is freezing and snow covers the entire area. After a while, the horse becomes scared due to the excessive snow on the ground and refuses to move. They are forced to dismount and continue the rest of the way on foot. They notice strange symbols hanging on the trees. Suddenly, they come across a cabin filled with blood and completely destroyed. An elderly woman from the area's indigenous people appears. She tells them their sister passed through here many years ago. She gives each of them a leather necklace with a small cow skull. Since they don't understand her words entirely, they accept the gift silently. The woman tries to warn them about a prophecy involving them, but they still can't fully grasp her meaning. The horse grows more agitated as if sensing danger, then runs away, leaving them behind. When they try to chase after it, Bridget falls into a trap and injures her leg. She screams in pain, calling for Ginger to seek help from the old woman. Ginger runs back to the cabin but hears a wolf's howl nearby, becoming more anxious and worried for her sister. She rushes back to Bridget, only to find the wolf approaching her sister, preparing to attack. Suddenly, a young man named Hunter appears, calling the wolf by name as if he knows it well. Strangely, the wolf obeys him and backs away. Ginger arrives at that moment and hits Hunter on the head with a piece of wood. Hunter, showing strength and intelligence, quickly calms the situation. He ties Ginger up with a rope, immobilizing her, then helps Bridget by freeing her leg from the trap and applying medicine to her wound. Afterward, he unties Ginger, calls his wolf, and walks away. He then stops and asks the girls to follow him for their safety. He leads them to a large fortress, guarded by a man named Claude. They notice the gates are marked with a large cross and bloodstains everywhere. It becomes evident that some wild creature is trying to break into the fortress. A man named Carmack opens the gate for them and helps them inside. They are shocked to find numerous graves and several indigenous locals inside. A man named James confronts Carmack harshly for letting them in without permission. Hunter intervenes, asking James to calm down until they understand what happened. Bridget shows them her injured leg and explains how she fell into a trap. The priest, Gilbert, views them as a danger and insists they must leave immediately. However, Dr. Murphy insists on treating Bridget before any decisions are made. A man named Roland introduces himself and invites them to join them for dinner that evening to rest. Ginger tries to ask Dr. Murphy about the deaths outside, but he avoids the question and changes the subject. Later, a young man named Fee takes them to a room to rest, explaining it belonged to Roland's son, Jeffrey, who died, leaving the room vacant. He gives them some clothes to change into. At dinner, Priest Gilbert says a prayer before they begin eating, asking everyone to repeat after him. Murphy reminds them that their food supplies are running out, and soon there will be nothing left to eat. At that moment, Hunter enters, placing a piece of wolf he hunted on the table, and begins eating with them. Tension rises between Hunter and James, leading to an argument that escalates into a physical fight. Gilbert sees the situation as dangerous and insists they abandon the fortress immediately. Roland refuses and insists they stay until the end. Suddenly, everyone hears a loud sound coming from deep within the forest, filling them with fear and anxiety. They instruct Ginger and Bridget to return to their room immediately. Gilbert follows them, warning them of a demon outside, urging them to lock the door and not leave the room under any circumstances. As Ginger sleeps, she begins having nightmares and wakes up startled. She decides to fetch water and hears a sound, following it to investigate. To her shock, she finds a small boy hiding in the darkness. When he looks at her, she sees his deformed face and strange appearance. He attacks her, trying to bite her, causing her to scream. The following morning, Bridget wakes up to find Ginger's neck covered in blood, indicating she was bitten. Ginger insists they leave immediately. They take swords hanging on the wall for protection. At the gate, they try to remove the barricades when James appears, hitting Ginger until she falls to the ground. He throws Bridget beside her, trying to stop them. Determined, Ginger stands up to him. Before he can approach her again, Bridget grabs a rifle and threatens him with it. Suddenly, the same sound echoes outside the gate, indicating something is trying to break in. James believes them and calls for help. Others rush to reinforce the gate, but one of them gets bitten before they manage to close it again. Taking advantage of the commotion, the sisters run back inside. Gilbert confronts them, claiming the creature is a demon trying to possess them all. He locks the sisters in a cabin, unaware he is delivering them to the monster himself. They hear the creature's sound and run, hiding in a room and locking the door. The monster tries breaking in until the wooden door collapses. Ginger stands her ground, attacking it until it dies. She discovers that Hunter killed the creature, saving their lives for the second time. He takes them outside. Roland speaks with them, and Ginger tells him everything Gilbert did. A guard rushes in, reporting a large number of creatures outside the gate. Roland orders the sisters to return to their room and lock themselves in. Hunter speaks to Bridget in the native language, saying black and red. Bridget notices Ginger bleeding from her nose, so she quickly takes her to their room. They hear gunshots and creatures surrounding them. The next morning, Ginger wakes up to find her sister missing, and she starts searching for her outside, and suddenly Hunter appears in front of her. He sees the wound on her neck, applies some medicine he has with him, and she begins to see it as a hallucination. It turns out to be just a dream, and she was still asleep. She finds her sister lying next to her, and nothing had happened. Her sister is shocked to see the wound bleeding and her covered in blood. She insists on taking her to Dr. Murphy. On their way, they see the monster that died the night before, being taken away to dispose of its body. They find Finn sitting in the clinic, cutting up some things with strange red stains on them, and his face is also covered in blood. When Murphy sees him, he is startled and asks if he was bitten during the night. Finn denies it, insisting he is fine. Murphy pressures and threatens him to ensure the truth, and it turns out he's right. A strange creature emerges from Finn's body, confirming that he was bitten and transformed. Unfortunately, Murphy is forced to shoot him and end his life. When the girls witness everything that happened, they realize they are in danger. They retract their statements and refuse to reveal why they came. Murphy takes them outside and finds another massive monster corpse on the ground. He explains to someone named Seamus that anyone bitten gradually transforms into these creatures, eventually looking like this. The shocking part is that the monster lying on the ground was the brother of Claude, the person standing next to him. Claude is deeply affected by his brother's death and what happened to him. Seamus takes an eye from the corpse to keep as a memento. They try to figure out what to do next, leading to disagreements among everyone. Roland intervenes, encouraging them to stay strong and fight to the end. The girls return to their room, and Ginger realizes that the little boy who bit her is Roland's son. He had been bitten and started transforming, which explains his terrifying appearance. Meanwhile, Roland brings some food to his son and tries to check on him, only to be shocked when he discovers he has escaped. Later, Claude talks to Ginger, revealing that if the creature that bit her dies before the full moon, she won't transform and will return to normal, eliminating any danger to her life. Gilbert and his companions try to deal with the new corpses and pray over them. During this time, Ginger's condition worsens, and Bridget tries to help and care for her as best as she can. Suddenly, she sees Jeffrey appearing normal in front of her, trying to talk to her. As soon as Bridget arrives, he disappears again. Ginger runs after him, trying to catch up, only to realize it was all just a dream. The people in the fort gather to burn the monster's corpses that they had killed over the past few days. Claude places a monster's head on a stake in front of the gates as a warning to the other creatures. Bridget stays by her sister's side all night, unsure of what to do as her condition worsens. Ginger starts developing fur on her body, and her wound almost completely heals and disappears. Roland enters the kitchen and tells Bridget he knows what happened with Ginger, that she left the room door open, and his son escaped. Strangely, he doesn't argue or blame her. Instead, he gives her her sister's necklace and leaves. Ginger sleeps in the dark and suddenly finds the boy in front of her again. He quietly climbs onto her bed, and as he gets closer, she screams. He gets scared and quickly hides. Bridget rushes into the room, and the boy runs out as soon as he sees her. Meanwhile, Seamus hears loud noises outside and goes to check. Jeffrey attacks him, throws him to the ground, and bites him. After a while, everyone notices Seamus is missing and starts searching for him. They eventually find him lying on the ground, dead, holding a strand of Ginger's hair. Naturally, everyone assumes Ginger is responsible. They storm into the room and forcibly take her. James grabs her, threatening and hitting her. A young boy named Milo sees this and runs to inform Roland about what happened. Bridget tries to defend her sister but is violently struck as well. Roland intervenes, ordering James to leave immediately. He takes Ginger to the clinic for the doctor to examine her. Murphy prepares to conduct an experiment on her to confirm whether she has transformed. Roland bursts in, shoots Murphy, threatens the others and orders them to leave her alone. When Ginger returns to the room, she explains that she must kill Jeffrey to protect herself. She takes a weapon, locks the door to keep her sister inside, and leaves. Outside, she sees Claude and James holding Milo against his will and throwing him outside the gate. She finds Jeffrey sitting beside his mother's grave, holding her hands. As she approaches him to kill him, she hesitates and feels guilty. Carmack sees her from a distance and tries to shoot her, but the bullet misses. She takes advantage of the moment to escape with Jeffrey. Hunter enters Bridget's room and explains that he saw her in a dream and must protect her. He offers to take her to a safe place, but she refuses. Unfortunately, he is forced to kill him himself instead of burning and torturing him. The boy falls into the well and Ginger feels guilty, believing it's her fault he died. She becomes deeply upset, and Bridget takes her away, escaping the fort through a hole in the wall. They decide to walk through the forest, hoping to find a safe place. Meanwhile, the remaining men try to retrieve Jeffrey's body from the well. After some time, the girls encounter Milo, who offers to take them to the cave where Hunter resides. Suddenly, monsters appear around them and start chasing them. Milo dies in a horrific manner, leaving Bridget devastated when she sees his corpse. The shocking revelation comes when Ginger admits she was the one who killed him, meaning the curse is still active and she is transforming. They walk together for a while until they find Hunter's cave, where they encounter the old woman they had seen before. She tells them it's too late and reminds them she had warned them earlier. She advises Ginger to kill the boy because he's still alive. Hunter and his wolf arrive, and they all sit down to eat together. The old woman offers Bridget and Hunter something to drink, allowing them to see what will happen. In the vision, Bridget finds herself in the snow, holding a knife. She wanders around and sees the woman's body lying on the ground, covered in blood. She eventually reaches the fort and sees a massive werewolf trapped in a snare. Upon closer inspection, she realizes it's her sister, Ginger. When Hunter tries to kill her sister, she rushes to stop him and kills him with the knife she has. In the end, it turns out she killed her sister. Hunter disappears, and Bridget wakes up from her vision. She is horrified to find the woman killed in the same way she saw in her vision. Hunter tells her that Ginger killed the woman and escaped. He recounts what he saw in his vision, that he died and sacrificed his life to protect her. He insists she must kill Ginger because she is no longer human and could harm others as she did earlier. They go together to the fort, waiting for her to arrive, and the shocking twist is that the core is handed over to the buffalo. After a few hours, Hunter remains standing in front of the gate while she is locked in a room. They lock her in, and Gilbert enters to offer her a deal for everything she has done so he can help her. But Bridget refuses, insults him, and tells him she saw everything in her dream and that they are not good people. Gilbert becomes very angry, drags her outside, throws her to the ground, and tells everyone that she is a witch. Ginger approaches the gate and knocks. They open it for her. At the same time, Gilbert prepares to burn Bridget alive. Suddenly, Hunter is struck by an arrow in the arm, preventing him from harming her. Cormac and James stand in front of Ginger, attacking and beating her until they throw her to the ground as well. They ask Roland to burn both of them, but he refuses, and instead burns Gilbert. He then stabs the other man with his sword. Ginger tries to escape through the gate by any means. James approaches her, mocking her, but she seizes the opportunity to cut his throat. He bleeds profusely, screaming in pain. She gets up, opens the gate, and helps all the monsters enter the fortress with ease. Cormac and Claude try to escape to any place, but this time, there is no escape from death. Hunter stands, shooting as many monsters as he can with his arrows, trying to protect himself as best as he can. He manages to save Roland just in time, protecting him from a monster trying to attack him. Unfortunately, Roland also gets bitten. He stands up, frees Bridget, and tries to help her. Hunter continues his battle against the monsters, killing many of them. Roland goes inside and sets the entire place on fire. After a while, another monster attacks Hunter, biting his arm, but Hunter eventually kills it. Roland climbs to the second floor, grabs his weapon, and takes his own life before he can turn into a monster like the others. Outside, Bridget walks with torches in hand, surrounded by the corpses of monsters everywhere. She searches for her sister and finds Hunter sitting on the ground in terrible condition. He hands her a knife, asking her to kill Ginger because he is dying and can no longer protect her. Bridget refuses to kill her sister. Instead, she takes the knife and kills him. She runs to her sister, embraces her, and tells her she will stay with her until the end. She takes her and escapes outside the fortress, locking the gate securely behind them. They watch the fortress burn entirely with everything inside. In the final scene, the two sit together as Ginger begins to transform. Bridget chooses to transform with her and live together forever rather than kill her and live alone. And thus ends the events of our film today. Stay tuned for more videos and summaries.
Hey film fans, welcome to Cine Pro, your ultimate hub for all movie recaps. From heartwarming classics to the latest blockbusters. The famous American city that contains Hollywood, the place of all the world's artists, has a girl who appeared injured because she was tortured by a masked, strange serial killer named the Las Vegas Butcher. Tortured her, claiming she was famous without any talent and didn't deserve her fame. He released her after she decided to abandon her path to stardom. She found herself at the peak of Hollywood, and the media was shocked when the killer posted videos of her torture on his official online page. He was enjoying the news while playing, caring only that his blade remained clean and white. In the desert, there was an actress named Helen, who used to be famous, but her fame had dwindled. Nobody liked her anymore because her trend had ended, and her talent was very weak. The killer's car stood out as he roamed the streets, observing people idolizing talentless celebrities who contributed nothing to society and, in his eyes, were harmful. Thus, he decided to expel, torture, and kill them. There was a wealthy girl named Sarah, famous only because of her family connections. She became an actress through nepotism and lacked any talent. She met her friend Carla, also a talentless actress, who might even be worse than Sarah because she promoted inappropriate films for money. Carla had an important job and asked Sarah to fetch drugs for her from a location she had provided. They planned to meet at a party afterward. In one of the hotel rooms, drug dealers, including the famous wrestler and actor Dave Bautista and his friend Danny, were waiting. Danny didn't use drugs, preferring to eat nutritious food to stay healthy while selling drugs. Bautista, on the other hand, was a smoker but not an addict. While they were sitting, Bautista sensed movement around him. He grabbed his weapon, thinking it might be the police. When he opened the door, he found Sarah, who had come to get Carla's drugs. Surprised by her boldness, they handed her the drugs after taking the money and asked her to leave immediately, as Bautista didn't like guests. At the supermarket, Helen received a call from her agent, informing her that no directors or producers wanted to work with her anymore and advising her to find another job. Suddenly, she saw news about the Hollywood Butcher, the masked and mysterious Las Vegas killer. Feeling anxious, she thought quitting acting might protect her from the killer since she lacked talent. The killer wrote on his official page, asking people who he should kill next among Hollywood celebrities who didn't deserve fame. Many suggested a corrupt mother who rented out herself and her daughters to men for money, deeming her a deserving victim in the killer's eyes. Helen hosted a party at her house, surprised by the large turnout. Her friend Sam reassured her, saying they would support her so she wouldn't quit acting. Sam joked about the possibility of the Las Vegas killer being at the party and killing someone, which turned out to be true. The killer murdered the corrupt mother at Helen's house without anyone noticing. He filmed himself killing her and posted it on his page, gaining more followers as he fulfilled their requests. The news reported the videos, and journalist Mary became deeply invested in the Las Vegas Butcher case. She noted that the police had started tracking the crazy killer, who had first tortured an actress and then killed a corrupt mother. Social media was divided. Some found the killer amusing and fake. Others believed he was real and feared him, while many supported him, seeing him as someone cleaning up Hollywood from talentless celebrities. Helen was shocked by these comments and decided to exploit the murder at her party to regain her fame, a decision that would have disastrous consequences. Meanwhile, Sarah decided to go wild, using Carla's drugs during a family gathering. She hallucinated, imagining her father as a devil and her stuffed dog as a real one. She embarrassed her family, who sent her to her room and punished her. Still under the influence, she decided to escape. Suddenly, the killer appeared, drugged her, and kidnapped her. Listening to Carla's messages, he found her address and decided to target her, especially since she promoted inappropriate films. Carla left the party, repeatedly calling Sarah to find out why she hadn't shown up, but received no response. The killer tracked Carla using her phone and started a live broadcast on his page. Journalist Mary, on her way home, encountered the killer but didn't recognize him. They exchanged strange glances before he left, leaving her puzzled. Carla, now at home, heard strange noises and found her door open. She closed it, unaware that the killer had already entered. When she went to look for her missing dog, the killer trapped, attacked, and knocked her unconscious before kidnapping her. Social media buzzed with the news as the killer announced on his page that he had captured Sarah and Carla because they were talentless celebrities, particularly Carla, who harmed society. Many on social media supported the killer, praising him for cleaning up the community. Sarah's wealthy parents appeared on television, offering to pay any amount to free their daughter, but the killer remained unfazed. Meanwhile, Bautista, under the influence of new drugs, hallucinated about his bed flying and the killer lying next to him instead of his friend Danny. Fearing increased police presence in the city due to the killer, Bautista and Danny decided to leave for a safer place to avoid being caught for their drug dealings. The killer continued his daily life, cleaning his white suit and listening to Mayor Walter, who announced intensified efforts to capture the killer, dismissing him as a mere trend seeker. However, the killer knew his next victim, the corrupt mayor, who indulged in alcohol and women instead of focusing on his duties. After a night of drinking and gambling, the mayor drove home, only to be intercepted and kidnapped by the killer, who took him to his secret underground hideout in the desert, a place the police had yet to locate. A car full of women and a successful but talentless producer named Robert also appeared, hinting at the killer's next potential targets. And he found someone blocking the car's exit path, so he went to see who it was and found the killer's car. He found no one inside because the killer was surrounding him outside the truck. He attacked him, knocked him unconscious, and kidnapped him to his hideout. None of the girls noticed anything because of the loud music. Helen and her friend Sam were thinking of how to use the murder incident in her house to regain fame. They decided to make a horror movie at the house. Helen left Sam at the party and went home. Sam stayed at the party alone, enjoying herself to the fullest. The killer captured her because he knew she worked as a call girl at night and was also a famous actress known for her provocative roles in films. The killer, in his hideout, played music for the party and the 6 guests with him. We only know 5 of them: Sam, the night girl; Sarah, the rich girl; her friend Carla, who promotes inappropriate films; the corrupt producer Robert; and the corrupt mayor Walter. The 6th girl is named Tori, an actress who was detained by him for an hour before he released her earlier. He went live for the audience, making the victims wear masks so people would guess who they were. He exposed the victims' indecent and corrupt actions through videos and made them confess that they became famous by chance and didn't deserve their fame. The audience was so entertained that they supported the killer's efforts to rid society of corrupt individuals, especially after exposing their true nature. People said, "We thought they were famous and respectable, but half of them promote inappropriate films." The killer played the audience's comments to the captives to prove to them that they had lost their value and were hated. He contemplated who to kill and who to torture. Meanwhile, Bautista and Danny were leaving Las Vegas because Danny's uncle had been arrested for drug trafficking and refused to reveal the location of his stash. They planned to search for the stash with Devil the Magician and make a lot of money from it. At the same time, they distanced themselves from the police's increased presence in the city due to the killer. The killer decided to kill the actress known for her inappropriate films first. He chose an axe as the weapon, played her videos for her, hoping she would feel remorse before dying, and then killed her. He felt sorry for his blood-stained suit. He believed she was harming society and saw his actions as a way to clean up the community, albeit in his own way. The audience enjoyed the live broadcast immensely. Helen tried calling her friend Sam but received no response. Instead, she got a call telling her, "If you want to see your friend, come to the location I'll send you, alone." Helen had many problems, like her separation from her husband, financial struggles, and professional failure. After the audience watched the actress's murder with an axe online, some felt the killer had become too violent. They debated whether his actions were real or a joke, and whether he should be stopped. However, those supporting the killer wanted him to continue until he eliminated all undeserving celebrities. The killer, with his axe, was now with Carla, who supported inappropriate films, in the slaughterhouse where he had killed the actress. He showed her her sins, hoping she would feel remorse before dying, and then killed her. She became his third victim after the corrupt mother and the actress Tori. The killer's bloodlust grew, believing this was the best way to clean society in Hollywood of fake actors. He was mentally ill, obsessed with light and goodness, which is why he always wore white and a mask, as he didn't want anyone to see his face. He tried attending self-reconciliation sessions but couldn't stay and always left. He went to a wrestling ring where a talentless singer named Jack, who succeeded through connections, was training. Jack was happy with the killer and said in a TV interview that the killer only targets undeserving celebrities and would never harm him because he was genuinely talented and deserved his fame. But the killer thought otherwise. He threw a camera on the ground to record himself kidnapping Jack. When Jack noticed the camera and bent to pick it up, the killer attacked him from behind and kidnapped him. Jack, who thought he was safe, was delusional. After every murder, the killer would cut his wig and groom himself like any normal person, hiding his terrifying reality. Jack woke up from unconsciousness to find himself among many others the killer had kidnapped, all imprisoned with no way out. The killer tortured Jack to the tunes of Jack's own songs. He also tortured everyone else, leaving Sarah for last. He applied makeup on her himself before tormenting her. Helen arrived at the location where she was supposed to meet the killer who had kidnapped her friend Sam. She fell into his trap and was captured. The police discovered the kidnapping scene and found Helen's blood on the car. News programs reported that Helen had been kidnapped after announcing her horror movie inspired by the crime that happened in her house at the hands of the killer. The killer decided to play a hunting game with the call girl Sam. He freed her, letting her run, with the condition that if she managed to escape, she would save her life and leave the hideout. Night fell, and she thought she had outsmarted the killer, but he was there, broadcasting live to all his followers. Suddenly, his car lights illuminated her, and he decided to run her over with the car, killing her because she was a call girl corrupting society. Meanwhile, in the desert, Batista and Danny's car broke down as they searched for the drug stash. They found nothing until they heard a strange sound and discovered Sam's body on the ground. When Batista tried to call an ambulance, they heard another sound, and the killer appeared, shooting Batista and stabbing Danny with a sword, killing them both. The killer seemed unstoppable. Remember the reporter Mary who met the killer? They exchanged many looks. It turned out she was the killer's lover. He told her the police were intensifying their search for him and might arrest her, so he needed to pause his game. He showed her his truck, which contained the bodies of those he had killed and those he had tortured and drugged. He promised her that once the game was over by morning, they would travel together. The killer leaked his secret desert location on his website. The police rushed to catch him but found nothing, not even a drop of blood. The killer had cleaned everything. They found cameras filming them, and people watched the police fail to capture the killer. This marked the end of the killer's terrifying and bloody show. The police found a recorded message from the killer, stating he would reappear later to kill more undeserving celebrities. As for Mayor Walter, he remained the killer's favorite victim, locked up and forced to watch videos of his past promises of integrity. Sharifa, and that he serves the nation, and that he's not a womanizer or even a studious person, so that he remains his whole life never forgetting his corrupt reality, and he'll die in front of these videos. People will know his truth. The killer freed Helen with minor injuries because she promised him she wouldn't care about fame again or make a horror movie about him. The killer's truck is at the top of Hollywood as usual, and the killer is waiting for his beloved Mary to arrive so they can ride together and go enjoy their time after the game ends. The killer activated the wireless tool, opened the truck door, and freed the victims who were tortured while still alive, as well as the victims he killed. Their bodies are still there. All of them at the top of Hollywood will never forget what happened to them, nor will they forget the killer. And before they think about fame again, they must think about him first. Of course, my friend, you're probably wondering why the killer freed some but killed the others. The answer is that this killer wears a white suit because he's delusional about loving light, goodness, and reforming society. He's excessively obsessed with these ideas to a dangerous degree. He also hates immoral films because they destroy so many people. That's why he killed the adult film actress Tori, as well as Carla, who promotes immoral films, because they destroy so many people. And that's why he killed the adult film actress Tori, as well as Carla, who promotes such films, and Sam, who works in nightlife as a call girl. He freed the others. Helen, the others, Helen, Sarah, Jack, and Robert, because their sins have nothing to do with the adult film industry. They're all coincidentally famous without talent. After torturing them, they'll never think about fame again. And that's the end of the summary. If you liked today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all new updates. See you in the next video.
Hello to all Cinemaster lovers. Hope you enjoy watching. Let's get started. The film begins in a remote place. Marco and his father depend on each other to live in a forest far from the noise of the world. They survive by hunting. At a young age, Marco learned to assemble and disassemble weapons with his father. His father was a man of few words. Every day, alongside hunting, he would set traps around the house. Because Marco was young, he couldn't participate in these activities, making his childhood very boring. The father taught Marco that a good hunter must remain silent in the forest to blend with the trees. This helped protect them from the dangers outside. His father had strong faith in the power of nature and left a candle mark in the shape of the letter M on Marco's wrist. The M symbolized moss, or mist or magic, and represented Marco's belonging to this forest. But Marco himself wanted to see the world outside the forest. However, his father always said he was too weak. If he left now, he wouldn't survive. But one day, the paper child would become strong, and the forest would release him to find his fairy. This fragmented speech came from a comic book called The Paper Child. The book also mentioned that the fairy had left the forest long ago and had gone to a distant and mysterious place called the Valley of Stone. Before the paper child grows strong, he must stay in the forest to complete his education so the magical forest can protect him from evil winds. Later, we learn that Marco couldn't defy his father's arrangements yet. At his young age, he deeply wished to find friends and play with them. One day, Marco discovered an abandoned trailer deep in the forest. Through the window, he saw toys on a table. He couldn't resist entering it. As he played with the toys joyfully, someone appeared behind the trailer. Marco shrank into a corner. The person in the shadows approached slowly. This person also looked like a young boy, holding a toy and trying to befriend Marco. Marco taught the boy how to listen to music. The two quickly became good friends. They introduced themselves and found that both their names started with the letter M. One was named Marco, and the other was Mo. Mo seemed not to interact much with people, and his language skills had deteriorated slightly. He could only say one word at a time, but that didn't stop Marco from liking it. However, staying away from home for too long made his father angry. Marco took the toy Mo gave him and prepared to leave. A woman appeared with a rifle. Gradually, the tension eased. Marco immediately sensed danger and hid in the nearby tree. The woman clearly wouldn't shoot a child and seemed to recognize that Marco and his father lived in the forest. This woman was likely Mo's mother. She threw a bag of nuts to Marco and quickly returned to the trailer to hug her son. Marco watched the scene from the darkness. He was afraid to take the gift he received home. So Marco found a place to hide the toy. He returned with the nuts and a bottle of water, but his father was very angry. When Marco returned, his father asked him where he had gone alone without fetching water from the river. Marco trembled with fear. The nuts in his pocket fell to the ground. His father assumed he had gone to collect nuts, so he didn't continue questioning. Marco remembered the hug between the woman and Mo. Because of this, he approached his father to hug, but his father pushed him away angrily and went back to chopping the pile of wood nearby. At night, Marco opened the picture book and quietly drew his new friend inside. The next day, he took the opportunity to retrieve the toy while fetching water and continued playing with Mo. Mo's mother gave him a different feeling of love compared to his father. In fact, there was a picture of a woman in his father's workshop. One day, Marco gathered his courage and asked him about it. His father didn't answer Marco's question, but late at night, he went to sit alone in the forest. Perhaps he was reflecting on his grief because of his son's words. The next day, the father and son went hunting in the forest as usual. Suddenly, they heard the sound of an explosion not far away. As soon as the father heard it, he told his son to return home first. Then the father left to investigate, holding his rifle. Marco didn't obey and didn't leave. He circled the area and hid among the trees to spot. Mo's mother was covered in blood and holding her arm. There were 2 or 3 corpses lying on the ground. The father approached Mo's mother with his gun without hesitation and shot her in the head. Marco was shocked and ran back home quickly. He lay in bed, his mind racing and almost driving him mad. As the night deepened, his father finally returned, muttering incomprehensible words repeatedly and carelessly throwing things around. Marco put on his headphones and turned up the volume. He didn't want to hear his father's voice, which was driving him crazy. The unclear words mixed with the sound of falling objects kept coming through. Marco curled up, wishing his father would sleep. Later, Marco sneaked out of bed, opened the cupboard his father always kept locked, and took out the tablet inside. Marco remembered that whenever his father was upset, he would take out this device to watch. There was a video of him, his father, and a woman playing together on the grass. The woman's belly was round, indicating the family was about to welcome a new member. Then the image became unclear. The woman appeared very anxious and called Marco's name through the screen. The woman in the picture, her name was Irina, and she was Marco's mother. Afterward, Marco tied his sleeping father to a metal pipe, gathered his belongings, and left the house before dawn. Marco went to the trailer to find Mo. He quickly packed many cans into his bag. Mo kept asking where his mother went. Marco lied and said, "Your mother went hunting." Then he held Mo's hand, and they ran together. But halfway, Mo refused to move further. By then, the father had woken, freed himself from the metal pipe, and noticed all the guns and picture books in the cupboard were missing. The father grabbed his hunting rifle and went out, following the tracks on the ground until he reached the trailer. But Marco and Mo had already left. Only a picture of Mo and his mother remained on the table. The father searched everywhere for Marco anxiously. The two children kept moving forward until they saw a strange person on the road. They hid among the trees, and then fled the path at the edge of the forest. Not far away, there was an abandoned car. The two quickly climbed inside and locked the door. In the next moment, a group of zombies surrounded them, banging on the windows. Mo was terrified by the noise. Marco couldn't do anything. However, they covered his ears with his hand. Unexpectedly and in a very short time, the zombies fell to the ground and couldn't get. The father forced the car door open. He was holding an axe, his hand stained with blood. He quickly pulled Marco out in one swift move. He carefully checked to ensure his son wasn't injured. Luckily, it was just a false alarm. The father glanced at Mo and forcefully shut the car door. Then he pulled Marco aside. Marco stubbornly refused to move, so the father had to hide him behind a large tree. He took his gun and went back to save Mo. He was an excellent marksman who never missed a shot. While Marco watched intently, he noticed a zombie approaching from behind. He grabbed the gun, aimed carefully, and pulled the trigger. The father was startled by the sound of gunfire. He was about to return to save them, but a zombie attacked him on the side of the road. Luckily, the father acted quickly and killed the zombie. By the time he returned to the spot, the black-clad zombie had already been shot and killed by Marco. The father patted his frightened son and said, "Your friend is safe now. Let's leave this place quickly." He noticed blood on his arm. The father's face showed shock as he quickly stepped back. He tied himself to a nearby tree. It was clear he was afraid of losing his mind if he got infected, which could make him harm his son. In addition, the father explained to Marco what had happened to Mo's father. With tears, he admitted he had lost his mind when infected, which made him a threat to his own son. The father also explained to Marco what had happened to Mo's mother. He told him she had been bitten by a zombie and was about to turn and harm those around her, so he had to deal with her himself. Marco finally believed his father and forgave him. The father wished he could hug his son one last time. He was on the verge of losing his mind and turning into a monster driven by hunting instinct. The father pushed Marco away and encouraged him to leave quickly. Then, he let out a terrifying sound. Marco watched his father convulsing and groaning, unable to do anything but cry. He then left the forest, holding Mo's hand, and continued on the path. After a while, they heard gunfire behind them. Marco knew what it meant. He had lost his father forever that day, and his shield of protection. The story of the paper child was a fairy tale his father had created in a post-apocalyptic world. It was a haven that shielded them from harsh reality. But now, the magical forest was losing its enchantment. The paper child had to be strong. Marco then took Mo and moved forward. Fortunately, they could still keep each other company and not feel alone while being alone. After a short while, the two finally reached the edge of the forest. A new and unknown adventure awaited them ahead. The two boys walked along the tracks and moved forward. They met a man listening to a radio. The man spoke awkwardly, saying he wished he could go with them. He had little ones at home he couldn't leave behind. While talking, he gestured for to greet them. In a nearby cage, there were some small zombies locked up. The man couldn't bear to part with his infected family, so he kept them confined. He brought out some food to treat Marco and Mo kindly, then watched them leave. But the peaceful and healing atmosphere didn't last long. While the two were searching for a place to spend the night, they discovered a large group of zombies. Fortunately, they were trapped inside a train car and couldn't get out. Marco quickly pulled Mo to escape, but as they turned, their path was blocked by two armed men. Luckily, they were just kids. The two men cornered Marco and Mo in a car and took them to a nearby refugee camp. The camp leader ordered the boys to be separated and imprisoned. This leader spoke with depravity, saying that after the apocalypse virus spread, all children born would be infected, and healthy children like Marco and Mo were rare and more valuable than gold. Especially Mo, considered a child with a weak performance, representing pure innocence, and who would never age. The leader wanted to keep Mo as a spiritual symbol for the refugee camp. As for Marco, keeping him would be a waste of resources, so he ordered his men to get rid of Marco the next day. Later, a kind, bearded man saw Marco alone outside with the weak child, who wasn't even his relative. He was truly impressed by the boy, so before dawn, he called Marco to wake him and help him escape through the back gate. Marco didn't listen to the man. He risked his life to sneak back into the camp and escape with Mo. The bearded man was then shot by the leader for his negligence. Mo complained of thirst midway through their escape. He was like a small child, unable to care for himself. Marco spoke harshly but was still forced to find water. Marco entered a nearby abandoned building to search for any reusable resources. He was surprised to find clean water and some clothes left behind by refugees. Marco leaned on the balcony to look outside and saw a zombie mother with two zombie children. She seemed to be nursing the children. He was curious about the scene when suddenly he heard Mo scream. The refugee camp leader was actually chasing them. The leader, furious about their escape, drew his gun, ready to kill Mo first. Suddenly, a drone hovered above them. They immediately became alert and scanned their surroundings. But the next moment, gunfire broke. One of the leader's men was shot and fell to the ground. Two fully armed soldiers approached, shooting the refugee camp leader on the spot. Marco hid in the darkness, and only Mo saw him and nodded gently, signaling Marco not to come close. But he accidentally made a sound. A soldier approached where Marco was hiding. Mo grabbed the gun from the ground and sacrificed himself to distract the soldier who was about to find Marco. The man who fired the shot was momentarily shocked. He had never thought of harming a child. He acted purely out of self-preservation. The two soldiers left, dragging their helmets behind them. Marco felt his heart breaking as he moved forward alone. This time he was truly alone. Marco felt he might never find the Stone Valley. In anger, he tore apart his book, The Paper Child. He was filled with rage and didn't know who to direct it at. Marco stood on the hillside and looked into the distance. A forest of steel and concrete loomed ominously. He gathered his courage and entered the city. Outside, hungry zombies stood at the security tracks, moving in groups. Marco could do nothing but hide under a car and wait for the crowd to pass. The next day, he found a nearby hospital. There was no sign of life inside. While Marco felt lost, he suddenly saw a woman in a white dress standing in a patient's room. Could she be the legendary White Fairy? Marco took the woman's cold hand and leaned, exhausted, on her frail shoulder. The woman held Marco and comforted him. She wasn't a fairy at all. She was just a patient infected with the zombie virus. Marco quickly fled the hallway and braced the hallway door with a stick as he walked. As he was walking, he touched the woman's hand through the glass. Marco was completely exhausted. He wanted to collapse in his mother's embrace like any normal child. Marco kept wandering the street. He passed by a wall full of posters of missing people. He left a picture of his mother on the wall. At that moment, a broadcast started from a nearby building. Marco followed the sound and went inside to see what was happening. He found a holographic man sitting and talking. He was speaking in a language Marco didn't understand. The loud sound attracted the nearby zombies. The voice was saying, "We must protect our children." As the zombies closed in, Marco couldn't hold himself back and ran towards them. Marco prayed sincerely amidst the music. Bullets flew around him. All the zombies around him fell. Marco removed his headphones, and everything became silent. The red dot of a sniper rifle focused on the dinosaur t-shirt he was wearing. But suddenly, the fairy who saved Marco stood under the bright sunlight. It was clear that she was warmer than the sunlight itself. But she wasn't a fairy at all. She was a woman with the rank of lieutenant. She removed her mask, and she told Marco, "You look exactly like my son, Philip." As soon as she said that, Marco clenched the hand that had been bitten by the zombie. The lieutenant tightened her grip on her weapon. She had to act before the child turned into a zombie. But suddenly, Marco stepped forward, hugged the lieutenant, and wiped her tears. In the end, the lieutenant couldn't bear it and chose to lower her weapon. She lifted Marco's bitten hand and saw a mark shaped like the letter M. Marco. The woman was shocked by the mark. She removed her helmet and gave him her coordinates. She said, astonished, "This child has a mark." She looked at him and said, "You're coming with me." And we learned that the unique mark on Marco's body was likely the reason he was one of the post-apocalypse children who didn't get infected. He was probably one of the few people with antibodies. And so, the movie ends on an open note. See you again in a new summary. Thank you for watching. If you liked today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all new updates. See you in the next video.